Oh
You know that
god.
by the time that this game is a year old, the whole entirety of West Virginia is going to be a nuclear wasteland, right?
Yep. I have no doubt in my mind about that.
So just so you know, the government is listening on this podcast as we speak. Perry, you have just incriminated yourself. I have no affiliation with you.
Yeah, the NSA picked a bad time to tune in onto this pre-recorded pre-recorded YouTube video, but I'm the same, Perry. You're on your own.
Oh, come on, guys. You know I'm not going to have any access to nuke sites. And plus, I wouldn't even know how to use one of those things, even if I did find one.
You press the big red button. Also, I still have nothing to do with it.
Wow, way to throw me under the metaphorical bus.
All right.
You didn't do that when I gave you the joke of Dead or Alive 6 beta mail edition, but now as soon as I mentioned Fallout nukes, you throw me under a bus? Jeez.
Hey, Reddit wasn't listening in before. I didn't have a bus to throw you under before.
The bus just showed up.
Yeah. All right. Well, now that Perry is promptly under a Greyhound, do you guys have anything else to note before we move on to the next announcement?
It smells like gasoline and vengeance under here.
I want that to be the subtitle for the next fucking Mad Max film, Gasoline and Vengeance.
I'd actually would like to see that.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our continuous and very long-winded E3 coverage. We are here for the final episode of our coverage for the Electronic Expo, and joining me today is the insoluble Jalen.
Yes, that's not true. Well, kind of it is, but yes, I'm here.
And the magnificent but equally insoluble Perry.
Yeah, but in my case, I just add water.
Good. So, if you don't recall from the last time, we are now going to be covering the last two conferences that we have not done yet, which are Square Enix and Nintendo. This time we will have Jalen as our host, and after we cover these two conferences, we're going to be doing a final wrap-up where we're going to be grading the conferences, saying any last words about the titles we're most excited for, and then kind of doing a wrap-up conclusion with that.
Indeed.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
You guys are stuck with me today. How unfortunate.
I'll hand off the reins to Jalen. Please, take it away.
Okay, folks. So, I get to cover Square Enix, and as we all know, they are our RPG boys, and they also publish things like Tomb Raider and Hitman. So let's see what they had for us this year at E3 2018. And one of the very first things they showed off was actually more Tomb Raider, and we've already covered that. So I'll just say this again. She's the Predator in this game, goddammit.
Yeah, I buy that.
It's basically the greatest Predator game that never was, the Predator.
And that's a damn shame. So, if you really want to know our thoughts on Tomb Raider, Predator Edition, look for Part 1 and a bit of Part 2, but mostly Part 1.
You know, now that we've been jabbing about the whole idea of her being the Predator in this version, how would you guys think that she'd actually fare going against an actual Predator?
I think she'd do a good job, honestly, with her skills in this game. Like, it'd pretty much be a Predator versus a slightly less advanced Predator.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Lenny, what do you think?
I'd agree. I mean, I think, if I'm being honest, it would be a bit, like, you know, favored in, like, the actual Predator side, but I think that might be good for the sake of dramatic tension, because if it seemed like a genuinely 100% equal fight, then it, you know, it might be a little bit less dramatic if we thought that it was, like, equal footing the whole time. So, pitting her against someone of, you know, more, like, you know, higher skill set, you know, more technology, I think would be good just for the sake of having a good villain, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I understand that.
Yeah.
But enough about hypotheticals. Let's talk about Final Fantasy.
Do tell.
Which one?
Specifically Final Fantasy 14 and its new update.
We're gonna have to clarify what the new update is. It's been a little while since we covered that.
Number Patch number 4.3, Under the Moonlight, giving us giving the world a new coat of paint. Considering there's more night levels, I think they're focusing on things like they showed off boss battles and stuff, and I, goodness gracious, now it's been so long I can't really like boof it out of my memory. But I know they said it was coming out in the summer. I don't think they actually gave a date.
I will admit, I've played a little bit of Final Fantasy 14, and I did enjoy my time with it. But maybe it's just because since I'm such a noob to MMOs in general, I couldn't figure out how to fully engage with the whole interacting with people on a massive multiplayer level and or figuring out how to join certain guilds or anything like that within the game. So I sort of stopped playing after a while. Plus, other games were taking up my backlog, so I couldn't devote the time necessary to it. But from what I did play of the bit, it was pretty fun.
Yeah, that's the thing about MMOs. I feel like they're just like most of these like really like community based like difficult genres where like you kind of need a friend that's already in it to like show you the ropes. Like it helps to have to know somebody, you know?
Yeah, I can agree with that.
It's not very trainer wheel friendly.
Exactly. And the one thing about like all these updates and expansions is that like they require you to be a certain level, have a certain level already, and probably like beating the story of like the base Final Fantasy 14 to even play.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Considering that they had to rebuild the entire game almost from scratch and then reboot the entire game.
Well,
Because
thanks for all that. Thanks.
I thought they did like basically just rebuild it from scratch. Like I thought Realm Reborn basically was, hey, that didn't work. Let's try it again.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's become one of the best Final Fantasy games ever.
Hmm.
And it seems to slowly been growing over time into that's one of the better Final Fantasies. I would even say it. Would you say it's become more successful than 11 ever was?
I think so, but like 11 is still played somewhere out there.
Just somewhere out there on a lonely little server.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think I want to say there's a version on the cell phone in Japan, and I think there is definitely people playing on PC for sure.
That's some dedication right there.
But like from what I understand, 11 was a grind fest.
A lot of MMOs back in the what was it, early to mid 2000s were a lot like that.
Yeah, that's true, and I think that's why people like stuff like Final Fantasy Star Online because they were less of that.
So like what, EverQuest, World of Warcraft, Vanilla, Star Wars Galaxies. Man, there was a lot of them back then. It sounds like they were a major grind fest.
But I guess that was just the name of the game back then. You know, gaming was still a bit more niche, and people were a lot more hardcore.
I bet if you went back in time and told people what it looked like now, they think you were crazy.
Probably.
Anyways, I've said my piece in 14. Do you have anything else, Lenny?
Um, I don't know if it was one that was actually on E3 or if it was at another date, but did they announce the Monster Hunter crossover at the conference as well, or is that a later announcement?
No, they showed it also. I was actually going to go do that next
Oh,
because that was what they showed off right after.
okay.
Remember, they showed off fighting the Rathalos in Final Fantasy 14, and they showed a little Palico.
Yeah. Well,
What they
cool.
didn't show was the
That's
bonus
about
stuff.
my piece for it because I haven't actually I haven't actually played a ton of 14. I've been wanting to just because I have a few friends who are into it and they tell me that it's pretty good. So, and I wouldn't mind trying it. My only thing is the monthly fee because it's like it's a free MMO up until like level 35, but then you have to pay monthly for it. And I'm glad that I can try it out. I just, for me at least, considering that I'm not in like a situation where I can guarantee that I'll be able to kind of pay for a monthly subscription to something unless it's something that I know I need or something I know that me and like multiple people are going to use, kind of like with like Netflix, like I know me and my family are going to use it, so I'm okay paying for that. But Final Fantasy 15, 14, I don't want to turn into something where I get into it and then I just wasted like many, many, many months of money on it, only to end up kind of just leaving it in the dust.
Yeah,
And
I think
that's not a judgment on the game's quality as much as uh, monthly subscriptions are something I see as an investment. Therefore, I need to make sure it's a good investment, and that can be kind of tough without actually sinking your teeth into it.
Well, not just that, but MMOs themselves are a dedicated investment, and you need to actively be using it in order to get your money's worth out of it.
Yeah, because I mean,
yeah,
it's
that's
not that
true.
I'm not used to playing like sort of games that require a lot of time investment and other stuff. I got heavy into Warframe. Not as much as like the pros of it, but compared to like other people, I'm definitely not like a newbie when it comes to that, of course. So keeping that in mind, it's like I know what it's like to get like heavily invested in a game that's like mainly online and where there's a ton of people involved, with like trade and economy and everything else. So it's like I'm looking at that game, and mind you, that game is completely free. You don't have to spend money, but I do recall spending some amount of money on it just because I wanted to, mainly for like cosmetic stuff. So keeping that in mind, my whole thought that I had on it was, like, what's the word for it? If I was willing to spend like X amount of dollars when I didn't have to pay monthly, just how expensive would it be if I did have to pay monthly?
Yeah, that would once you add all the money up, that does turn out to be quite a bit of an investment.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just thinking, like, okay, look at, if we're going to use an example we all know, look how much time that we spend with Monster Hunter. All right? Now imagine that kind of time, except for we had to pay for every single month in order to just keep up the progress that we've been doing.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. So again, it's no judgment against the team because it's not even to say that it's not worth it, for them to have it. Of course, they're paying for their service. They have servers to run. They consistently add all these updates. Like the new one that Jalen was talking about. As far as I can tell, that's an update and not DLC. So that's, I would say, where the money goes. They're not just keeping it and being like, give us money. They're using it to keep up the servers, to add new content, to keep up maintenance, to do patches and everything else. So, no judgments specifically. I'm just a bit more hesitant because I don't have the kind of income to support that. So I'm very happy for the game. It looks good, and the Monster Hunter stuff in particular, which we'll, as you said, we'll talk about in a minute, is stuff that I think it'll be good, especially because I'm really glad that and I'm really glad that Capcom is trying to support this game, even like through this cross promotion, of course, as well. But it's good, and that's about my say.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I think that's everything we have to say on Final Fantasy 14. Well, I guess there's also the Behemoth thing in Monster Hunter, but that's neither here nor there because that was like leaked. I swear, like a few hours after this conference was over.
Yep.
That's quite a thing to leak, though, considering that thing's size.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just they weren't thinking, or they thought too much.
Pretty sure if they showed that during the actual conference, everyone would have lost their minds.
I know, right? Oh well. Anyway, we're gonna move on now to Captain Spirit and his awesome adventures coming from Don't Nod Entertainment.
I will admit I've harped on this game enough as it is, so I don't know how much more I have to say on this one.
Yeah, we've talked about it a good bit. I mean, it's cute, I guess. That's all I really have to say at this point. Getting you all slightly buttered and readied up for Life is Strange 2.
Yeah, isn't this supposed to tie into either Life is Strange 1 or isn't it supposed to be a prequel to 2 or something?
I think it's supposed to bridge the gap, if I'm certain,
Yes.
because it does take place in the same universe, as far as I can tell.
Takes place in the same universe. And when those two guys, whose name I do not remember, from Don't Nod were talking about Captain Spirit, they were saying, yeah, this kind of like is supposed to tie into Life is Strange 2. And it's kind of just a way of saying, hey, Life is Strange 2 is on the way. Here's a little thing to have fun with.
So look forward to that, Tumblr.
Perry's low blow.
You
There
know,
you have it, everybody.
would you guys find it ironic if I said that I've actually talked to a few of your like the stereotypical Tumblrites, and they actually are not excited for this one?
Really, I'm a little surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I can kind of, I mean, it's just about some kid.
Well, that's I guess the thing is, this is gonna sound strange, but again, we're talking about this kind of audience. They
Really?
they didn't say it's bad. They just specifically said, if I recall, that they consider the games to be an example of female empowerment in the industry. So focus, and I quote, focusing on some white kid who has a bunch of first world problems, like his parents not paying attention to him, is really against the point, so to speak.
And you have it here, folks.
That's straight from the source. That is what I've gotten from that. So take that as you will. That's not me necessarily. That's just their view, and mind you, that I don't know if it's that even all their view. That's just the ones I've spoken to. So maybe I'm speaking to the more stereotypical elements of it. But in regards to my personal opinion, I think it looks exactly like what a interactive form of like an indie movie would look like. I don't know if you guys ever saw like what is it, Turbo Kid? Not the same thing, but it kind of reminds me of that very like kind of indie movie, like not necessarily retro, but it feels very much like a film festival look to it. And the fact that it just seems to be portraying that accurately with like the ukulele music and the kind of cardboard cutout aesthetic of his dream sequences, I find it charming. I just really have no interest at all in playing it.
My interest is so low; it's in the negatives.
Like I said, everybody, it's cute. That's all I gotta say.
That's fair. And
Anyway,
I think that's all I got. Really.
I'm good. I've said everything I need to say.
All right, then we're continuing on to a big Square Enix title, Dragon Quest XI.
There you go.
Oh yes.
And so they showed off a nice new trailer. It showed off a bit of the gameplay, more of the characters. I feel like those who are like really big on it already know what's the lowdown, but they also showed off the new like collector's edition that's exclusive on the Square Enix site with like a map and an art book and some other fancy shenanigans. And I'm like, oh man, I don't want to order from the Square Enix site just to get it, you know?
Ah, that's fair.
They tend to hog all their best collector's editions for themselves. I mean, just look at Final Fantasy 15.
That's true. But I'm looking forward to this game. I'm a big Dragon Quest fan. Loved 8. I loved all the other ones that I've played. Um, I even like Dragon Quest Heroes 1 and 2. Really good games. Um, I'm highly looking forward to this game. It looks like it brings like the coolness, the cool character chapters from Dragon Quest 6. And some good old classic RPGs, Japanese RPG turn-based gameplay, and we get some of the amenities they give to like the Western fan base. So like voice acting and updated menus, just to modernize it a bit.
Mhm.
But not completely.
Exactly.
And
Um.
I will admit that was something that personally annoyed me a little bit when I was playing the demo.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's the one thing about Dragon Quest is that it is a classic JRPG in the sense that it still uses things like, well, it doesn't use random battles anymore, thankfully, but it still uses like a turn-based gameplay. It still uses it still uses a silent protagonist. It's still kind of like grind heavy a bit.
I don't mind the whole random battle shtick. It's just the mute protagonist, if anything. That was my one biggest gripe during the entire time I was playing it. And when I was taking the time to go through the game, and I was enjoying it for what I was playing, there was just only some minor gameplay things and the silent protagonist that really kind of irked me the wrong way. And maybe it's just because I've been more and more aggressive towards my stance of if you're going to do a silent protagonist, then have everyone be silent or talk through text. Or if you're going to have everyone have a voice, give the main protagonist a voice. Because if it implies in the trailers alone or in the dialogue that this character has a personality, then that character should be allowed to convey the personality either through their voice or through their expressions. I mean, heck, if Wind Waker, Zelda, and Link can get away with this, then I see no reason why Dragon Quest can't do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. And to be fair, to Dragon Quest, I guess everyone is silent because they don't have any voices in the Japanese version anyway.
Uh, I guess maybe it's just because they didn't have the budget for it. But if they didn't have the budget to do everyone for full voice acting, then why not just have text box dialogue for the main protagonist? So that way, at least give the idea that they are talking.
I don't know. At this point, like I feel like the silent protagonist is just like a holdover. If you just want to have one, you just have one.
Would you say at this point that it would be justified as a stylistic choice?
Yeah, you could see it as that really, because I think Mass Effect has done a great job of BioWare in general has done a great job of making like the silent protagonist of the new era of RPGs, giving
Yeah.
that like they do have a voice and like they just have like standard dialogue
Mm.
options, you know?
But at least then you get to choose what type of personality they have, and they still convey it through the dialogue.
Yeah. Hmm. Like I said, I don't have a problem with it. I've never had a problem. Like it's just silent, you know. I say the yes or the no. If he's supposed to be me, that's cool.
I don't mind it so much. I just ever since I played El Shaddai, ever since then, and whenever I played a game with a silent protagonist, it always sticks out to me like a sore thumb.
I mean, I can get that, but they do explain in the plot why you can't talk, though.
I don't remember that statement, but okay, if there is a reason for it, then I will roll with it.
Yeah, like you know how like that Armoros guy that you come across, the dancer. You know how he just speaks in Wales and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically at that point they explain that when you take the trip from heaven to earth, you can lose various attributes about yourself, and in the case of you and Armoros, both of you lose your voice.
Oh, okay. That makes a little bit more sense.
I
Yeah, not to
completely forgot about
say
that.
yeah, not to say that that makes it any less irritating when you want them to talk, but I would say that they do at least acknowledge that he isn't talking at all throughout the course of the game.
Okay, that's a little fair. I will admit that's a detail I completely missed over in the dialogue. So, no, no more harm to El Shaddai, but I will admit I have to acknowledge that is the turning point where I started realizing how much it annoyed me.
Nah, it's completely fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I will say this to Dragon Quest's credit. I wasn't so engaged in the dialogue that much compared to when I was trying to play the actual game. And for what I was able to enjoy for the brief moments, I really enjoyed the moment-to-moment gameplay. I had a good time with it. It felt like a good old-school turn-based RPG, and that's pretty much what I expected out of this. And I mean, it's based out of Akira Toriyama's art style, which that art style pretty much never gets old with this world.
Yeah, you gotta love boy main man Toriyama doing Dragon Quest since the dang old beginning.
That's some dedication right there. He probably has more enjoyment doing Dragon Quest art than he does Dragon Ball art.
I think so. I think he actually has said like him being able to do like the monsters loss and be really expressive. And back when he said back then when they were doing the sprites, he'd actually make the artwork more detailed because the sprite work would be less detailed.
Just so that way he can give a chance to show off.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, either way, despite my grievances with the demo and what I played with it, I still had some good times with it. The only other thing, just as a slight nitpick, whenever I was trying to accept a quest for a character, it would not give me or point me in the direction of where I would need to go. Or you know how sometimes whenever you accept a quest, it puts the objective marker on the map.
Mm-hmm.
And for someone who's not familiar with this world or figuring out how everything is just to get my bearings, I have no idea where one direction is over the other. It says, oh, go north to the village. I was like, where's north? I don't know which way north is. And I couldn't, and I will admit this is just me being dumb because I wasn't reading the compass. And when I was looking at the mini map, it's like, okay, I still see the objective marker as here at the village. Where is north? So that way I can go and fulfill the quest. And so it took me about a good 5 minutes of the demo just to find the damn thing. Once I did, I was like, okay, now I can actually go off and fight some shit. So, little annoying that they wouldn't move the objective marker or point to me in the direction of go this way, you dink. And by the time I was there, I was about maybe a third of the way through my time limit on the demo. So when I get to it, it's like, okay, now I can try and play some stuff. And it was a good time overall.
That's good to hear. But for everybody, the game comes out September 4th, the day before my birthday. So, I'm instantly gonna get it. I'm not gonna say like I'm gonna do a huge review of the game, but I might give my impressions somehow. Maybe. Who knows?
So in other words, we won't hear from Jalen for at least a good 2 months.
It's possible.
Anyways, I've said my piece on Dragon Quest. What do you think, Lenny?
I have no familiarity with the series at all, so I'm good. Looks good. I mean, I'm sorry to be so terse, but I've never really played them before, and they look fun. I don't really know where I'd begin at this point if I were to kind of get involved, but I'll say I hope that Jalen has a fun time with it and he can tell me all about it when it comes out. So there you go.
Yay. Well, that's all for this segment of Big Square Enix title. Now we move on to...
Wait, what about Nier Automata Become as Gods Edition?
Oh, yeah. Well, I was going to do another thing first, but we can talk about that.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut in. I thought for a second you were going to be jumping to the rest of the to the big N.
No. Yes, Nier Automata also is coming to the Xbox One O, giving the super awesome name of Become as Gods Edition. And I'm still like, that is an amazing subtitle. Whoever thought of that subtitle needs to get promoted.
I agree.
Give that man a beer or a race, or preferably both. In fact, that should be the new standard edition name for the game itself. And screw Day One edition. That they need to reprint the game as Become as Gods edition for all platforms.
I'd like it if they ever did like a complete edition, like all the DLC and all the modern stuff and everything. Because there's only one set of DLC, of course, but it would be nice if they bundled that together for later editions.
Watch that become the Switch version of the game.
You know what? Okay, here, I know what they should do, all right? if they did that, and like as in they had a complete edition where they had the DLC, but then they also included some of the concerts that they have, which reveal like more lore and shit, I would love that.
You know, yeah, that'd be cool too.
I'd be
Because
totally okay with that.
yeah, because I don't know if we've described that either on this podcast or previously, but like the they have various like concerts for the music. Because if you haven't heard yet, the music in Nier is god tier ever since its inception, back in Drakengard days. So it's really good, and so they did concerts for them. But during these concerts, they would have the voice actors and actresses come out and basically do various like line readings, basically like in their characters, but it wouldn't be line readings from the game itself. Like they wouldn't be repeating dialogue; they'd be saying brand new stuff. So the idea is that you would have to kind of watch these concerts for these little like mini drama segments in order to kind of get the full picture if you wanted to watch everything, that is. And if they included those in like some sort of complete edition later on down the line, I think that would be magnificent.
Heck, do like a super edition with the Your Hot stage plays.
Yeah, that's exactly what. Yeah, that too, because I remember that was oh yeah, that was like backstory stuff, right? With A1, I think.
Yeah, A2.
A2, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
A1 is a sauce, not a.
There's
not
a
a
new
person.
one too, with the boys that
Really?
explain. They talk about the scanner models.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm. And that one's interesting too. It's not as like a direct as the one about A2 is. It's more like explaining why the scanner models are like they are.
Ah, okay. Still, I can dig it.
Me too.
So yeah, so
But
get
yeah,
so get on that, Square Enix. Get them on Blu-ray. Get them together. Send them to the rest of us. Because god damn it, they saved the cool title for the one that's not gonna buy it as much. I mean, I'll tell you what though, I don't want it to fail, but I do get the sneaking suspicion that the people over at Xbox are not going to be nearly as not nearly as many people are going to be enthusiastic about Nier as the people on other platforms usually would be. That's just how I've usually interpreted that, is that on average, not exclusively, but on average, Xbox tends to have a market that's pretty well catered to for like Western focused games, and then Sony and Nintendo are either fairly good at either middle ground or Eastern stuff. At least that's kind of what I've gleaned.
yeah, I feel like that sounds about right.
No arguments on this end.
Yeah. I mean, I hope it does well. And the fact that they brought it there means that at least someone must have asked for it. So there's at least one guy out there who's getting his dream come true, and that's good to hear.
And that's great, really.
Yeah.
It just means more people get to play it, and that's never a bad thing.
Yep. More
So
people get to cry all day long. It's gonna be great.
Hey, misery loves company.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of misery, well, not really misery. Speaking of a game made by Platinum, there was also the new IP, Babylon's Fall, being developed by Platinum, published by Square Enix. And boy, we got a whoozy doozy of a trailer.
I'm not gonna lie, I've almost forgotten about the trailer since it came out.
Oh no, I haven't. Although I have been eager for gameplay. Have they showed off any gameplay for it yet?
I don't think they showed off any gameplay since it's
Oh,
come out, since they announced it. I mean, I feel like this game is really early in development still.
that's a shame. I really want to see what the gameplay is going to be like. Because I mean, just the name alone. Like, say the name again for me just one more time.
Babylon's Fall.
That's so cool. It's so edgy.
Like,
I love it.
damn, what is this game gonna be about? Like, they showed like at least like a couple of like knights in armor in the trailer.
Yeah.
So I wonder if this is gonna be like, it's gonna be an action RPG probably. I wonder if it's like Platinum's attempt at a Souls-like game.
Do you think
Potentially.
Do you think with the name Tower or the Babylon's Fall, do you think it actually will be centered in the mythological Tower of Babel?
That I'm not sure of.
I'm gonna say a flat no to that, mainly because of how the trailer seems to imply a long history in this world that doesn't seem to line up with what we know about the mythology of that. So, I mean, that's just my hypothesis. It could still be like that, but they said something like, "Oh, like year 8,000, the queen is dead," or something. Like, I'd have to watch it again, but as for, maybe I'm not familiar enough with that, but it doesn't sound strictly in line with what we would typically associate with Babylon. So they might just be going, "Fuck it, the name is cool. Let's roll with it."
Or maybe just take the basic concept of Tower of Babel and just go full hog with it. Or who knows, maybe it just could be a. Actually, now that I look at the trailer again, I'm watching it right now. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Pandora's Tower a little bit.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I don't know. Maybe it could have a similar tragic, almost foreboding atmosphere to it, and maybe just add a little bit more lore to it. So think Dark Souls level of lore meets Pandora's Tower with more knights in armor type deal.
I could dig it.
That sounds like it'd be cool.
Yeah.
I, I'm interested in the combat
Me
because
too.
I wonder if it's gonna be like closer to near Automata, or maybe they'll try something a bit more heavier and with a little more weight. Because I don't think they've really done that. They've always focused on more like faster, arcadey type game combat.
I would say, and I'm not an expert on this, I would say if I had to name one game that had slower stuff, it would be that's a tough one because I would say the closest they came to slower combat would be Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, or if you want to go older, maybe a bit of God Hand, or I'd say at
You,
least God
you
Hand
read
is
my mind.
yeah, God Hand I'd say is at least slower than say Bayonetta or the Transformers game they did. So it's that's where I would go if I were to say, like, if I were betting and be like, what direction do you think they're going?
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't even think about that. Mostly because they weren't platinum and they were clover.
yeah.
But that's an interesting take. I'd like to see. I like to see them try something with a bit more weight to it, just out of
I'll be,
curiosity.
I'd be down for it either way. I mean, Platinum Games is one of those few companies. Anytime I see their logo, I'm just like, shut up and take my money.
Hey, their slogan: "Platinum's luster never fades."
Oh, that's just smooth.
Yeah, it says that on the carpet of their they have it on the wall, I think, and it's also on their carpet. They also have a carpet with all like their titles on it. It's fucking cool.
I
That's
want that
amazing.
carpet. I want the carpet and I want to hug the carpet. I want to hug their logo. I want to hug their entire goddamn office.
Yeah, Platinum's great, man.
Yeah.
But having my eyes like looking out to the sky, nose to the ground for more news on Babylon's Fall.
As soon as there's a
But
gameplay
we'll move
trailer,
on.
I'm gonna see if we can do another one of these chats, because it won't be E3 coverage, of course, but it would be interesting to kind of see what it's like when it comes out. Not even that we're not even like a news channel, of course, but I do think it'd be cool for us to kind of cover the games that we're excited about when it comes to these things.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah. So look forward to that, people. Whenever, in a
Yeah,
year, tomorrow, today, even.
could be tomorrow, considering how late we are for all these E3 things, but oof.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is true. I mean, let's face it, quite a few of the things that we're talking about in this conference either has new updates to it or has already come out.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Perry. You've helped me segue.
That's what I'm here for.
Now, when we think Square Enix, we think JRPGs, right?
Right.
Yeah,
And
I'd
when we
say that's a
think,
fair guess.
mm-hmm. And when we think JRPGs, we think Final Fantasy, right?
Yeah.
And when we think Final Fantasy, we think of those 2D games on the Nintendo console, right?
Well, for those that are probably a little bit older than us, then yes.
Yeah.
Well, those people are in luck because Octopath Traveler is a 2D RPG by Square Enix on a Nintendo system exclusively. And boy howdy, it doesn't look damn cool.
And apparently it's been getting good reviews and very good sales.
Way better sales than either Nintendo or Square had either predicted.
Seriously. Amazon is on backorder.
For 2 months.
2 months backorder. How is that possible? Who knew? Who knew this game would be a phenomenon on the Switch of all things?
Or and not only that, but apparently there's a shortage of copies in Japan.
Who knew Japan was looking for a 2D turn-based RPG? Who knew? Nobody did.
On the Switch.
On the Switch.
On the Switch at that thing. I guess everyone likes to take their JRPGs on the go in Japan.
Which technically makes sense it makes sense a little bit for Japan, considering they're more mobile heavy in terms of their gaming than we are in the West.
Yeah, that's true.
So it doesn't seem like too much of a transition from going Octopath Traveler on the Switch, which is a portable console. Then, okay, I can see why that would be somewhat in demand for it, but a shortage in Japan? Really? You underestimated this game that much, Square?
They didn't believe.
Apparently, they've not been paying attention to a lot of the retro throwback titles as of late. I mean, I know we keep beating this dead horse, and a lot of the internet does, but Mighty Number 9 was a throwback title that a lot of people wanted, but didn't work out. But now with Koji Igarashi doing Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, even the 8-bit throwback game that he did as a bonus has been received very well, and Bloodstained looks like it'll follow suit very, very shortly.
Mm-hmm.
And so you would think that a lot of the people with these retro titles being the spiritual successor, it's like, yeah, this looks like it has the makings of a seller. Now, on top of that, everyone keeps clamoring for a couple of things from a Nintendo console: strong third-party support, and they also plan for good games in general. So why not bank on this? I mean, I understand you want to be a little hesitant considering it is a new IP. Well, that's the other thing. They want strong third-party support and they want new IPs. So this is literally both of those things in one.
It checked all the boxes.
Yep.
And not only that, but it was right for the taking, considering the Switch has been on the rise for quite a while now, at least. The last couple of months, it's been doing relatively well sales-wise. And I think this is I'm going to make a small prediction here, that with the success of Octopath's sales, that it's going to start incentivizing Square to bring more games to the Switch or make other Switch exclusives, as well as show other companies that, yeah, you can do a third-party exclusive Switch game and it will still sell if you know what you're doing.
Well, that's kind of the thing that we've come across, man. It's the Switch, even with, my boy Sony, the Switch has become the place for exclusives. Their games, that's the thing. It's like some games that are exclusive for Sony have eventually come to other platforms. Not all the time, of course. You got the big ones, Ratchet and Clank hasn't, and other ones have, but you do occasionally get ones that Sony says is in their camp, and it goes multiplat. You outside of really old and weird kind of niche examples, you do not get Nintendo things on non-Nintendo products ever. Mario Tennis has never been on an Xbox. Legend of Zelda
never will.
Yeah, and Legend of Zelda will never be on a PlayStation. So you get that kind of, I don't know, we'll call it exclusivity insurance, so to speak. The assurance that you bought this system for the games you can't get anywhere else, and they will continue to be that way. And I know some people tend to say that that's anti-consumer, but it's also a matter of I'm kind of torn on that, if I'm being honest, but it's also a matter of if you're going to be getting one over the other, there should be a reason for it. And right now, the Switch's only things that really has going for it competition-wise are portability and exclusives.
Mm-hmm.
So
but
the fact that
those are two things very much working in its favor right now.
Absolutely.
I mean, and just to make it even funnier, a lot of games that you'd think would never come to a Nintendo console in a million years. I'm sorry if this is a little bit of a tangent, but You guys remember Night Trap?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's apparently getting a Switch version now.
Mm-hmm.
So, little callback to Howard Lincoln, the lawyer of the Nintendo of America, back when this whole fiasco started with Night Trap. He said on camera and on record saying that Night Trap will never be on a Nintendo console. Cut
Oops.
fast forward to 25 plus years later. Look what we've got going right now. We've got Night Trap coming to the Switch.
You're on the wrong side of history, old man.
Don't see. This is why I love looking at history because then you just look back in hindsight and laugh.
It kind of reminds me of like quotes that I saw of like people saying, like, it is like something in like 1892 or something, saying all the technology that is ever possible has been made already. You know, like people actually saying stuff like that, and it's like, oh, if only you knew. Oh God.
That's just adorable. Let me just
And
pat you on the head.
it's just amazing, because I mean it's not even like they could have known at the time that things would just get so batshit crazy in regards to like technological process. I mean, we didn't even know. It just kind of happened. Like, oops, the internet.
Whoops a
Oops, the
daisy.
internet, like you just drop something
Yeah.
and it disappeared.
That's right. Just oops, amazing modern technology. Oops, the internet happened. Oops, modern medicine happened.
And I know this is another small thing, but I love the fact that even just a couple years ago, the fact that I was giving so much shit for Nintendo for censoring a lot of stuff, nowadays I almost barely hear anything from them in terms of censorship. Like, I haven't heard anything regarding Octopath. I haven't heard anything regarding a lot of its other games getting censored. So I'm overall pretty pleased with what they're doing, and I will happily say I'm eating crow on this one.
Nintendo started making good decisions.
And you know what? I applaud them for it, and I'm very happy to have the Switch now because of it. So, Nintendo, future reference, keep running with this. If you keep this up, I will continue to buy your stuff.
Yeah, that's all you gotta do. Make good, cool games like Octopath Traveler.
Yeah.
And just let developers do their thing. I mean, heck, when I was playing the demo or I guess the launch version of it when I went to the party for it the other night, it was really cool just to see I Am 8-Bit hosting the event, which, okay, let's be honest, we all know the vinyl soundtrack is going to be coming for this. I mean, why else would I Am 8-Bit hold a launch party for a Switch game like this unless they weren't releasing the soundtrack? We know it's coming.
Yep.
Yeah, it's true.
So I'm going to be picking it up. I will pick up probably the physical version on CD just so that way I can download to my computer, but I still want to get the soundtrack on vinyl. And even when I was talking with people at the launch party, I think the best thing we all agreed upon is said, you know what, this is almost as if what would happen if Final Fantasy VI or any of the old school SNES Final Fantasy games all amalgamated into one game, gave it a bigger budget, but they didn't change anything about the fundamental aesthetics. They just took it to its natural nth degree, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'd say it honestly looks great for it, considering even from its initial review, it stood out and got people's attention just from its art aesthetic alone. And that's usually pretty hard. And even now, whenever people see the game, they're just like, oh, yeah, that's Octopath. It almost became immediately recognizable.
Yep. Undoubtedly so.
In fact, I'll say this right now. I wouldn't be surprised if this is in line for best RPG of the year.
Wow. I didn't even think about that. Damn, that's possible.
That's saying something concerning how early in the year it is.
Well, I mean, we're already halfway through the year. We haven't seen that many RPGs. And if I'm going to be honest, I'd say this is going to be pretty distinguished just on the fact of how many factors seem to be going against it. I mean, it was a 2.5D RPG turn-based system on a Nintendo console from Square Enix that usually doesn't support the system that much. So it kind of seems to have snuck in as a bit of a dark horse, and I'm going to put money down and say this will probably be the dark horse of this year.
Yeah, it's definitely in the the candidacy for Dark Horse. Yes.
Yeah.
Either way, congrats to the developers of Octopath Traveler. It seems like all your hard work has been paying off in dividends. So kudos to you. And hopefully this leads to more production from you and hopefully maybe a sequel. That would be wonderful.
You can call it what's after Octo?
In maybe in teeth traveler or something like that. I don't know. What's double? I'm trying to look at the Latin version of 16.
I'm trying to think of what 9 would be, because I know 10 is Deca.
Yeah,
I don't know what 9 is.
wow, how can we not know this?
Seppa is 9, Deca is 6, Penta is 5. What the fuck is 9?
Okay, if it was 16, if we're going 16 travelers, since there's 8 of them, then we're going Sedecum Traveler.
Well, that doesn't roll off the tongue as well, though.
Or if we're going to keep the same naming convention, it'll be Sedecapath Traveler.
That might work.
Slightly
Maybe.
better. Path kind of helps smooth it out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm just trying to go off what's the Latin for it, okay?
Yeah.
But
I mean, they could probably shorten it a little bit by calling it Sedepath Traveler, just Sed of SEDE Path Traveler.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that works.
Anyways,
well, we named the sequel. Good job, everybody.
You can put our royalty checks in the mail.
Yes. But we should move on.
Indeed.
Now, Square Enix also showed off Just Cause 4.
Which I'm very disappointed that they haven't just completely jumped the metaphorical planet-sized shark all the way to Mars yet.
They want to keep the ball rolling for a bit longer.
I know, but if you're going to be screwing around with physics that much, why not just go all the way out and just say, you know what, screw it, we're going to take a rocket ship and do it on space.
To be fair, there's a lot of merit in battling the forces of nature.
That is fairly true.
Here's what I would say as a possible explanation. I think they looked at Volition Studios with their Saints Row series, and they saw that as like a sort of warning, so to speak. Because Saints Row had a similar kind of thing, where it started off not necessarily completely serious, but relatively serious. And then Saints Row 2 became notably more over the top and silly, and then kept going, with 3, 4, and Hell, and Agents of Mayhem. And here's the thing, I think. Based on the facts that Agents of Mayhem and preceding Saints Row games proceeded to sell less and less, I think what they came across is they noticed that Volition was making the games way too silly for their own good, and they didn't know how to stop. And keeping that idea in mind, they might not be going as over the top as you and I might like, because they don't want to turn into another Saints Row.
Yeah, that is a fair point.
Yeah, because I bet at that point with like Saints Row 4 and Agents of Mayhem, you aren't making the game for like a more general audience. You're making it for fans of Saints Row,
Fans who enjoy the outright insanity of smacking people with a giant foot-long dildo.
Exactly.
Yeah, and at that point, it even got to the point where it got even sillier than they would like. Because I've talked to like multiple Saints Row fans, and they're basically like, it's not that we hate it as much as we like some of the balance. Like, I think they said that most people tend to agree that, like, 2 is the sweet spot, and 3 is okay for, like, self-indulgence, because it kind of just took some of the sillier elements and cranked them up a bit, so they're like, that's fine. I think they basically said that 4 kind of, like, broke it, in the sense that, like, it made it too silly, and it kind of, like, tried too much to do other games things, like namely I think they said Prototype was one that they kind of noted as like a calling card for some of their gameplay elements there, and obviously Gat Out of Hell and Agents of Mayhem didn't do great. I mean, they didn't do bad, but obviously they are not nearly as well regarded when you compare them to what we've seen with Saints Row 2 and 3.
Yeah, that does sound roughly correct. Although I know this is going to be a other slight tangent, but I just had this weird ass idea. What would you guys say to a Saints Row Crackdown crossover?
What we call it, crack row.
I did not think of that as soon as it popped up in my head, but now we need to see that be a thing.
Oh my god.
Jesus.
It's certainly better than the alternative, which is Saints Down.
Saints down sounds really funny to me.
But
It sounds like an operation name in a military. We are now commencing Operation Saint Down.
Oh
sounds
man.
like life alert for pastors.
I don't know. For some reason, I'm just imagining the crazy insanity of Saints Row, but you have Terry Crews as a cop in this universe, and you fight as the cops as Crackdown with Terry Crews as your main guy, but you're going against the Saints Row crew.
And
Would
it
you have
all
like
takes
would you have like two campaigns? One where he plays the Saints Row guys fighting Terry Crews, and the other one where he's Terry Crews fighting against the Saint Row.
Yes.
Yes.
And like there be an epic duel like Johnny Gap, Terry Crews.
And then it turns out the final boss of the game is Metal Wolf Chaos.
Oh my
Oh my
god.
goodness. We got some crazy cameo going on
We
here.
gotta
Just
stop.
go for the outright. Oh come on, you guys know we would all play that game.
And the final battle takes place on the titular crack row.
That's where the game's going to take place. Is Crack Row Island.
Crack Row, Operation Saints Down.
And like the currency isn't like money, it's crack.
You know what? That would be really hilarious. It's like, oh, it's not drugs. It's just another name for money. It's just crack.
I'd laugh if there's like a really insanely stupid and poorly balanced economy where you're like, you go to a drug dealer and you want to buy some crack. Like, hey man, I want 4 grams of crack. All right, that'll cost you about 6 grams of crack. All right, here you go, man. I'm really itching for a fix.
4 grams of crack.
Your change comes in the form of hypodermic needles.
Oh my goodness. Well, we've made another game for somebody.
Again, royalty checks in the mail.
That's inflation for you. Jesus Christ.
Seriously, I want someone to pitch this to. You said Volition is the one who makes Saints Row, right?
Yeah. We gotta check if there's still
who makes
around.
Crackdown. Remind me who makes Crackdown.
Someone else.
I'm gonna have to look this up. You guys keep going.
Well, I was gonna say I don't know if Volition is still a thing anymore. Like I think they still are, but I'm fairly certain that their performance with Agents of Mayhem caused a lot of problems. I think they had to cut off a quarter of their staff because of that. So.
No, shame.
Don't quote me on that, but I'm fairly certain they had layoffs as results. But that's to jump back to the original.
Oh, hey, it's Sumo Digital.
Yeah,
Sumo Digital.
To the original thing. Just Cause looks really fun, and even though I think it'd be fun, as Perry said, if we went way more over the top, the fact that it's kind of reserving itself, I think, is good for the sake of keeping consistency with the series based on what the fans enjoy and want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, now that you mentioned that whole point, I can understand why they keep it grounded on Earth. Although I will admit, just as a slight little addendum, why don't you just rename it Just Cause 4 Nature Fights Back?
You know, I'll tell you what, if we wanted to go over the top, I wouldn't mind if they did something kind of like the Blood Dragon DLC for Far Cry 3, where they're basically like, okay, we did the grounded thing. Now, let's stop giving a shit.
I will gladly buy that.
Yeah, that worked too.
Yeah.
But you know what? This would be hilarious. Consider they got Michael Biehn to do for the character for Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. Since that was supposed to be a nod to 80s action films, why not we do the similar thing with Just Cause, but instead we have Arnold Schwarzenegger basically doing a parody of himself from Commando.
That's too good of an idea.
Come on, you know we would play that too.
Yeah, we would.
I mean, let's face it, the dude, the main character in Just Cause, he already takes out more guys than all of Commando combined, so it wouldn't be too much of a stretch. Just put an Arnold Schwarzenegger skin, give us some freaking synth music, and just go crazy.
I could dig it.
Lots of explosions everywhere. We hear a classic Arnold one-liner. Just
Or better yet, just do a best of compilation of him, of every one of his one-liners from all of his action films up to this point. From
it's
just you would pretty much have all of his recorded lines in the game.
just give it a dedicated button so you could just say it at any time.
Just spam all of his one-liners.
I have a stupid idea.
Oh boy.
What if they decide to make the DLC like a parody of Dirty Dancing and they got Kevin Bacon to be this, like, to be the new guy in town, and he... It's gonna sound dumb because of course it's still gonna be an action game, but I want you to imagine that they frame him fighting these tornadoes as him dancing with them until they decide to leave. So him entering the tornadoes and killing them is like shot as if he's dancing with them. And it's a Dirty Dancing reference.
I was trying to hold in my laughter so much.
It's so dumb, but I think that'd be amazing. Kevin Bacon just dancing tornadoes to death.
No, Kevin Bacon's the final boss of the DLC.
Oh god.
I don't have words.
Jalen.exe is no longer working.
I love how you worded it.
Tiny
he
Twister
dances against the tornadoes and they leave.
Well, you can't kill them. They're in love.
Oh god.
And then they would make original songs from, like, they'd get, like, I don't know, someone from, like, they'd get, like, Dexy's Midnight Runners, and they'd do, like, a cover of Tiny Dancer, but it'd be called Tiny Twister.
Oh god.
I should not be trusted with any game studio. I would run it into the ground.
Blow me closer, Tiny Twister.
Oh my goodness. And that's what twisters do. They twist you closer.
Jesus Christ.
But going back to Just Cause 4, I will admit I never played 3, but I really enjoyed the crap out of 2 for the brief times that I played it, just because I wanted to shoot the shit. But you know what? If this turns out to be pretty good, then I will give it a whirl.
You know, I've never played a Just Cause game. I got Just Cause 2 for PS Plus, and then I never downloaded it. And then, yeah. So, I'm up for it. I'm up for a wacky sandbox game where you just fight natural disasters.
Just end up punching a tornado in the face.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a good time. It does. Lenny?
I've said my piece. That I think our 80s DLC dreams kind of got me tapped on that Just Cause concept, so I'm good.
Okay, then. I guess it's time for us to mosey on to our next topic. Now, this game came out of fucking nowhere, I swear to God, and it had the weirdest fucking trailer. It was cool, but weird. The fucking Quiet Man. Fucking's not in the title, The Quiet Man.
I'm blanking. I mean, I'm not trying to be rude. I don't know if it's about you guys. I'm blanking on what this trailer was. Maybe I'll have to. Perry, you take the reins while I educate myself.
Well, if you remember, it was a live action trailer of a guy like walking down an alley, and he meets random thugs A, B, and C, and they talk to him, and like he's not saying anything.
Oh
And then they attack
yeah,
him.
yeah. Okay. Well, regardless, Perry, you can start.
Okay, sorry. I was doing some really quick research trying to figure out what the heck this thing is, because
Ah.
I remember the name of the Quiet Man. I'm not gonna lie, it made me think immediately of the old film named The Quiet Man. So I was like, no, wait, I know that's not it. If I remember correctly, I think there was some point in the conference or during the presentation where they mentioned the reason why it's called the Quiet Man is because the character is deaf or is mute or something.
He's
Like,
deaf. For
yeah,
yes.
okay, he's deaf, so he can't hear anything. Which that actually makes me very curious to see how is that going to work out, because sound is usually one of the key factors to helping you immerse yourself into the game. And if you take that away from people, how do you think that's going to react to people who are not deaf? And don't get me wrong, I love the fact that there's going to be a character uh, that is deaf, and I know some deaf people, and I could actually show them, hey, this game actually stars a deaf character. Uh, so it makes me curious, but I'm just wondering more so, how is the lack of sound going to affect the actual game itself, or at least so far as the main character is concerned? Because I'm pretty sure they're not going to mute all of the sound in the game, but the majority of it that would focus around the main character, they would have to get rid of or be non-existent.
If I had to take a guess at what they're going to do for this, I'm going to say there's probably going to be two things, and potentially even both of these things. Thing number one, rather than having anything in the environment make sound, they might have music that kind of accompanies the general mood, meaning, stealthy music when you're sneaking, actiony music when you're doing stuff, but then nothing actually makes sounds. The other thing I would say is that you might have, say, something akin to I know it's different because this is usually related to hearing based stuff, but imagine what you have with the earthbenders in Last Airbender, where they feel vibrations in the ground, and that's kind of how they can tell where things are. So
you mean Toph, basically?
yeah, so imagine that, but see, so in this case he's deaf, but he can actually feel vibrations of things around him, and that's kind of what he uses as a replacement for hearing. And so maybe you'll hear vague environmental sounds that his body's vibrations are interpreting, rather than the actual sound itself. So if someone is speaking, for example, you would basically hear small vibrations that match the cadence of that person's voice.
I'd imagine the game will also have much more pronounced visual cues as well.
Yeah, but those are my if I okay that's what I would say is my hypotheses as to how this game might be handled, or at least if I was a game designer and some boss came and slapped down a game saying, "Hey, make a deaf guy game," then I'd be like, "Okay, how do I do that?" Those would be my first two steps, but we'll have to actually see if there's any gameplay, or when gameplay comes out. I'm sure we'll have a much better idea of what they're kind of going for with this.
Yeah, I will say it definitely looks interesting. It has my attention, so at least now it does. I will admit I kind of forgot about it until you brought it up. It's like, oh yeah, that's the one. So yeah, I'm very curious to see where this goes.
Me too. I'm looking forward to it in the future. And I'm not expecting to hear anything though.
Really?
That's the reaction I wanted.
Uh, all right. Lenny, I think you and I have said our piece then.
Yes, we have.
All right, Jalen, what's next?
Well, you know what's next? Don't think twice, because it's Kingdom Hearts 3.
I can already hear the fandom squealing.
I think this was the most shown game of E3.
Yeah, I was about to say, we've covered this game 4 times at least. Well, or at least 3, I think, because they had 3 trailers, I think, but Jesus Christ. I think considering we've covered, I don't know if you guys have anything else to say. I would recommend us moving on, because I think we've already talked about it at least twice.
Yeah, that's pretty much true. It surprisingly was very present at E3 this year. I think people just were analyzing the shit out of the trailers and just going crazy over it, which I don't blame them. They've been waiting a long time for this.
Look, it happened, man. Our friend Adolfo said by the time Kingdom Hearts 3 would come out, he would have a child. And guess what? he has a child.
Yeah, he's pretty much right.
When you put it that way.
And to be fair, he said that when he was in high school.
Okay. That is interesting.
It almost,
I
I'm glad that the fact that you mentioned that little factoid, because I was gonna make a comment and saying, what was he having, a race or something?
I'm gonna like I'm just gonna as a gaff. What if it's causal? As in the game only actually got like announced and trailers for it because Adolfo became a parent. And they were waiting for him to keep his word.
Nomura has like a damn drone following Adolfo.
He has a spiritual link.
For like 10 years.
And he's waiting for his fatherhood to kick in. And he's like, you told me it wouldn't come out till after then. Finally, my ambitions can be complete.
Damn. That's really amazing.
Oh my god.
That's some stalker. That's some stalker level shit right there.
I love it.
But since we've already talked about Kingdom Hearts 3 enough, I think we're all excited to see more of it and have the game fucking come out in January. Jesus Christ. We've already failed Miss Utada Hikaru. We've thought about the game more than twice.
Yep.
Please forgive our sins.
So we should hop, skip, and jump to another conference. And the last conference, really. The conference of Nintendo. And it wasn't really a conference. It was a goddamn Nintendo Direct. But that's what they do nowadays.
Yep.
And they started off the Direct with a fucking blast. Because we got motherfucking robots.
Hey man, chicks dig giant robots.
And the cool ass name too, Daemon Ex Machina.
Surprised they didn't name it Damn an Ex Machina.
And this one comes to us at the boys of Marvelous Entertainment, which is interesting because I've never heard of them making like a game with robots in it, but everyone's free to do whatever they want.
I'm just waiting for the fan service to show up.
For all we know, we might not even see any pilots. We might just be playing like mechs the whole time. And I wonder if they're going to be completely customizable, because that'd be really awesome.
Yeah, I'd be completely down with that. And plus, hasn't it been a while since a lot of people were assuming this was going to be an Armored Core game? I wonder if this is going to be a sort of fill the void of Armored Core until the next one comes out.
It might. It just might, mostly due to the fact that what I don't even know where I was going with that. Like, yeah, people are gonna who dig robots and stuff are gonna play this game.
Yeah, hopefully it turns out very well, because I mean, like we were just talking with Octopath, people want third-party support and they want new IP. So again, they could Marvelous if they're doing their job right and they don't underestimate it. They could have a hit on the Switch. So yeah, just make sure Daemon Ex Machina does have all the support that it needs.
That's completely true. I think one thing that people who are big into Armored Core will probably might not like is that this game is definitely it looks a lot more arcadey. The colors are very vibrant, and the gameplay looks very fast and frantic compared to Armored Core in general.
Sorry, I almost zoned out when you said vibrant.
Sorry.
No, it's fine, man. I got what you meant. But yeah, I'm actually a little surprised that Armored Core fans wouldn't dig this so much because of the whole arcadey thing, because I won't lie, maybe this is because of my ignorance towards Armored Core. I always kind of figured Armored Core is a more arcadey-ish sort of thing. But then again, I'm not super familiar with mech games, so they all just kind of blur together to me, unless there's something like Steel Battalion or maybe Battletech, which is something meant to be intentionally slower.
When I think about it, there's not really too many mech games. So unless you're big into Gundam. So
So,
yeah, your
so maybe
pickings
an
are kind of
amendment to
slim.
that. Maybe an amendment to that statement. There's not that many mech games that don't have the name Gundam on it.
Yeah, that's true. So if you're not a fan of Gundam and you don't like Gundam games, this is and you but you like mechs, this is a game for you.
Sweet.
So definitely worth one keeping on the radar.
Oh, for sure. Like it's already on like my pickup for the Switch radar. You know.
Same here.
But moving on, the indie titles Overcooked 2, Hollow Knight, and Killer Queen will be coming to the Switch. And I don't know, I haven't played Hollow Knight. I don't remember much of Killer Queen, and I know Overcooked 1 was very fun. So I'm surprised to see. I'm happy to see like Overcooked 2 come to the Switch, especially because that's definitely going to be big for like parties and stuff. Because that game can get crazy, you know.
I will admit I've never played the first Overcooked, so I don't really have much background or knowledge about the game. As for Hollow Knight, I already have the game on PC, but hey, cool for Switch fans. They get another real, apparently really good game and got a pretty good following from it. As for Killer Queen, looks pretty interesting. I again don't know anything about it, but from what I understand from the game, it was isn't it supposed to be a port of an arcade game, but they had to tweak some things in order to make it fit on the Switch.
I think so. I don't remember like correctly. Like I wasn't big on like Switch news, you know, just like the bigger stuff, not like some of the smaller stuff, you know.
No, that's fair. I just wanted to make sure that whatever I was saying, my factoids were a little bit straight.
What's the actual premise of Killer Queen? That doesn't sound familiar to me.
Uh, Jalen, do you remember the premise of this? Because I will admit I don't.
Yeah, I don't either. I thought I did, but I don't know. It's too long now.
Well, like, what kind of gameplay, I guess, is what I would be asking for that, then.
Allow me to look that up really quick.
Oh, it's the 2D joust game with the pixels and the guy with the jewels and the people flying and hitting with the joust.
Huh. So does it play like the original Joust, or...
Oh, okay. It's a team-based game, so yeah, it is similar to that of Joust, where you each play as different teams of bees.
Huh. Interesting. I don't remember this one as much. Maybe because I should admit that I didn't actually tune into the Nintendo one, but interesting.
Yeah, I remember now when I saw the trails, man. What the fuck is this? Is this fucking joust?
Yeah,
That
apparently
is exactly what I said.
Yeah, apparently this is supposed to be a competitive game where you're supposed to take down the enemy queen of the respective team's hive. So that one is apparently the main premise of the game, but also there's something involving a snail god or something. I don't know. It looks bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's very weird in the same mind of what's the name of the fencing game? I can't think. Oh my goodness,
Nidhogg.
Nidhogg. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of does remind. When I saw the footage of it, or at least thinking back on it, it did remind me a tad bit of Nidhogg. So who knows? Maybe it could be cool. I'm not gonna lie, it's very weird recalling this so far back now from E3. It's just it's just a little bizarre, and I feel bad that I can't remember a lot of these things.
Mm-hmm. It's a shame. We have bad memories.
Yeah.
Granted, we should have finished this a bit more sooner, but sorry.
It happens. Life gets in the way.
It's getting done, and that's what's important. Also, I'm glad that Hollow Knight is getting a port, just because I haven't played much of it, but from what I've seen, it looks like a very well-made game that deserves its success, so I'm happy for that.
Indeed.
That's probably
Apparently,
about all I would say for me on indie games, at least, so
Okay.
what do you got, Barry?
about I'm pretty much the same on that end. I mean, don't get me wrong. I have nothing against playing indie games on the Switch, but it's just Hollow Knight is the one indie game out of that lineup that I already have, and I have it on PC. So there's really not much reason for me to get it on the Switch outside of having the convenience factor of portability, which I haven't played the game yet. So I can't really say as to whether I would get the version on the Switch just so that way I have the convenience of the portability factor. So I'd have to play the game, but for what I've seen, the reception's been pretty positive. So I don't have I can add it to my backlog, the never-ending list that keeps growing and continuously hating myself for not getting to. So
gotta start someday.
I know I'm trying, but either way, it's good for fans and good for Switch owners, so I can't complain. And Killer Queen, I'm sorry that I couldn't remember anything about the game or much about it. So either way, just from I saw the premise, it looks like it could be a fun little co-op game or a fun little party game or something like that. So why not?
Fair enough. I'm just glad Nintendo's supporting all these indie titles.
They need it. They need to keep the ball rolling on their support because it seems to be paying off for them. So let's keep it up.
Please and thank you, Nintendo. Anywho, more ports. Well, not more ports, but in the order of events, they showed off more Octopath and they announced a demo. But the game's out now, so I guess that's null and void. Actually, no, if you're interested in playing Octopath and you don't have it yet, play the demo because your save data is carried over.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's good to know.
I will admit, though, I kind of do plan on getting it tomorrow, maybe. So there's not really much point in me getting the demo.
See, that's fine. I'll probably get it in like a week or two.
That is if you can get it when it's not on back order.
I know, right? Jesus.
I think that's probably going to be the one thing that surprised the crap out of us the most tonight is just the fact that Octopath is backed order for 2 months.
I know.
It makes me actually kind of curious of how well it's been selling at other game retailers like Best Buy and GameStop and whatever.
I saw a copy in the store today. I did stop by GameStop.
Just one copy?
Just one copy.
Well, someone's going to be really happy if they've been looking for that one copy because I've looked on Best Buy right now for the Wayfair edition. There's not a store within 250 miles of me with that in.
Jesus Christ.
And wow. I saw 3 in stock last time I was in.
Oh man. Ooh, boy.
I'm kind of kicking myself now, but it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
At least it's going to a fan who is creating it a lot more, and I'm saying that hopefully not with the possible realistic expectation that's going to a scalper who is exploiting the fans.
Oh, you had to bring in that reality, huh?
I know I had to mention it because I know someone else was thinking it, but I'm going off the idealistic hope that each one of them went to a fan.
Thank you for being optimistic.
Someone has to be.
But there's something to be optimistic about. Mother friggin' Dragon Ball Fighter Z coming to the goddamn old switcheroo.
Hooray.
That I am very surprised with.
After all this talk, Arc System Works being like, well, you know, we like our graphics to be top notch. We don't think we're going to port any of our titles to the Switch. Nintendo, the people asked for it. They did it. Good on you, Arc System Works.
A truckload of money will change a lot of people's minds.
Yeah, that and publisher being like, man, make us more money. Stop being a bitch.
I mean, as long as they can get it to run at that frame rate, you know, it's like, at least if I'm correct about the technology they use, a lot of this stuff involves like a lot of, you know, like it's a lot of like cells and shading and like resolution scaling for this, you know, so like they can still keep the frame rate and just scale it down slightly and it's still gonna look really crisp and clean just because of the way that they built their characters around this. So it's just good, you know.
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting to see the way they build it too, because like if you ever, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but there's a few instances of there's a few times where someone has done like engine camera hacks. Well, they'll like zoom in on a character during their super when the camera usually zooms out, and you'll see that they'll actually like make the outlines for a character thicker the farther away that they are from the camera to make them more distinct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for like close-ups, they'll make the actual like body part specifically they need to like bigger.
Yep.
And they did that, and there are other companies who do that too. Like for JoJo All-Star Battle, there's a lot of manipulations of like the character models and stuff.
Yeah, I remember I noticed a little bit. It wasn't bad because it didn't take me out of it, but I did notice a little bit of some of that with like the part 4 people, like specifically Josuke. I hope I'm getting the name right.
Yeah,
Part
you're right.
part 4 JoJo, that one. But no, it's interesting to see that though, and I'm glad they're bringing it because I think that Dragon Ball Fighters is fucking top notch.
Yep. So people on the Switch get ready to play your Gokus and your Vegetas and Cell and Kid Buu and other people and beat each other up because that game's coming to you.
It actually kind of makes me curious to get the game on the Switch, just so that way, in case if I do have anyone around me with a Switch and the game around, then it makes it a lot easier for us to play. Or heck, have one copy of the game and just pass off the Joy-Con controller to the other person and just play it from there.
Mm, that's fair. That's a good idea. That's one of the joyous things about the Switch. Take it anywhere, find anybody anywhere. Have a Dragon Ball Fighters tournament on your plane with all your buddies.
And then just completely lose their shit, and everyone tells you, it's like, what the fuck are these guys doing? Just getting so upset over playing a fighting game.
Well, then they'll buy a Switch because, like, you can play with your friends over a few hours over the plane, and it won't be a bore fest where you're watching Mamma Mia.
Yeah. Funny thing is I actually, since I was on a long plane ride not too long ago for going to Florida or back to North Carolina real quick, I actually brought my Switch with me on the plane, and I played some Rayman while I was there. And lo and behold, it's like, wow, I didn't think I'd actually use this for its intended function, but here I am using it. And I'm not going to lie, when I was getting my phone repaired and I didn't have any other way to contact, no one had any other way to contact me for that duration of time, I was kind of thinking to myself, damn, I wish I had my Switch right now.
See? It comes in handy.
I need something else to play while I'm being bored.
You
But
know what
thankfully they
else?
had at least some, sorry, thankfully they had some demo stations I could keep myself occupied with a couple for a while.
That's good. That's good. Well, I feel like that's all we can talk about for Fighters on the Switch for now.
Yeah.
Until it comes out. But something's already out now on the Switch. It's getting an update, and it's goddamn Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And when I heard it's a doozy of an update.
How
Yep.
doozy we talking?
Define doozy.
Like, I've heard that it's supposed to be like at least like a quarter of the length of the base game.
Really?
So it's more like an expansion pack, if anything.
Yes.
Now, here's a question for someone who didn't play or finish the original or vanilla game. Is this supposed to be taking place after the main game, or what? Or does it take place during it?
See, that I don't know. I'm assuming it's going to take place after the main game because I think characters from Xenoblade 1 and I think Xenoblade X show up.
Wait, you mean the original Xenoblade Chronicles?
I think Shulk will be a blade.
Oh, wow. I did not know. I did not even consider that. I didn't even finish Xenoblade Chronicles 1, so potential spoilers.
Mm-hmm. Like during when they showed off the trailer for the DLC expansion, that was one of the things they showed.
I didn't even notice that. I'll have to go back and look.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they showed off Shulk.
Well, then, just a quick question. I know this is going to sound really, really dumb, but the red sword that Rex uses, is that not the Monado, or is that just Pyra in sword form?
I don't know anything about Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I've never played it.
Okay, fair enough. I just figured I'd ask because anytime whenever I see Xenoblade, I immediately think of the Monado, the giant red sword. And so when I saw Rex's, I was like, "Oh, is that the upgraded version of the Monado?" So I don't know. Maybe it's just me being dumb.
I mean, it could be the Monado. I don't know. The few things I've seen of the game, which are like out of context boss battles, didn't have like any story or dialogue to give context to.
One of us needs to really get on that. I guess I'll have to do it since I have the game on Switch. So I will probably have to find some time to sink into it, but
Mhm.
that's going to be way down the line.
I understand. Lenny, you have any words?
Not really. I haven't really played any of the Xenoblade Chronicles games, but I'm glad that its fans are getting more content.
The first game is great. Like, I feel like they should just port the first game onto the Switch.
Cool.
Dear all that is sane, yes, I will gladly buy that.
Because, like, I still have not played the first game.
I played a little bit of the first game, but I never got a chance to complete it. And the soundtrack alone is worth the price of admission.
hmm I was thinking about getting the new 3DS version, but I heard that it's not as all as it cracked up to be.
It it's a little messy, I'll say that much. Because I tried playing on the 3DS version, and it's a tad slow. Let's just put it like that.
They were too ambitious.
I don't fault them for the ambition, but I just don't think it was the right platform for something like that. If they tried doing a remaster for the Wii U, that I could get, but this is a time where I feel like, okay, with all the Wii U ports and all that stuff coming to Switch, I think it's time that maybe you can look at Chronicles 1 and say, let's port the original game to Switch for those who never played it.
Yeah,
Because if
they should definitely do that.
because I mean, thinking about it now, Xenoblade Chronicles 1 was a trial by fire just to get on the system in the West at all.
hmm
I mean, we had Operation Rainfall as its original purpose, setting that whole campaign up just so that we can get it, the last story, and Pandora's Tower over here. So, out of all those three games, Xenoblade has obviously received the most love. Last Story, I think, has some acknowledgement. Pandora's Tower, I don't hear anyone talking about that now. So my little say is Nintendo, why not remaster the games and then just port them to Switch? I'm pretty sure fans would buy them.
Oh, for sure they would. Like, it's pretty much said and done. Like, the only way they wouldn't buy them if they were just inferior ports.
Yeah, I don't know how you can make an inferior port of a standard def game that looks like what they do. I mean, it wouldn't take that many resources just to give them a high res coat of paint.
hmm
Plus, it doesn't. They wouldn't require that much to in terms of processing power to make them run at. Couldn't they? Do you think they theoretically could make them run at 60 FPS with the technology now?
They could, but I really, they just, have to make sure. Like, does the game need to be at 60? I guess that's the question.
I'd say if you have the technology to do it, I say go for it.
Okay.
I mean, heck, they can make if they can make freaking Donkey Kong run now at 60 FPS, then I see no reason why they can't do Pandora's Tower, Xenoblade Chronicles 1, and Last Story.
That's fair. Very fair.
Plus, it gives us an excuse to listen to those beautiful soundtracks again.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Well,
I've said my piece for Xenoblade. I do want to play the DLC, but I need to play the base game first. But I need to do other shit first before I get to that.
shoot, I need to buy the game.
I'm guessing, Lenny, you said your piece as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty good on Xenoblade.
Okie dokie. Well, moving on, we're going to talk about Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee, and another special Pokemon by the name of Mew. But There's a catch. You can only get Mew if you get the Pokeball Plus accessory.
Those
Man.
cheeky bastards.
So, if you're gonna play this first Pokemon game on the Switch, and you want a legendary Pokemon like Mew on your team, you're gonna have to buy yourself a little Pokeball.
And you know what? You know what'd be the really salty thing in here that would pretty much annoy almost any other Pokemon fan is that they don't make trading compatibility with the Let's Go games between that and the new generation games that are going to come out.
That'd be ridiculously dumb.
It would be ridiculously dumb, but they have to figure out if they think about some way that they have to keep those things relevant. You have to make trading compatibility in there. I mean, because I'm not gonna lie, at first I was really excited for Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, mostly because of the fact that they're just Pikachu and Eevee following you around. It's something a little bit different. But the fact they're so heavily inclined on the whole Pokemon Go mechanic and it's not acting as a traditional Pokemon game within the Kanto region, that kind of makes me, and not only that, but you can't battle the Pokemon in the wild like in the traditional sense. That just feels weird to me. That's almost taking 75% of the game out of the Pokemon game.
Yeah, I feel like this was a real experimental title, so they just decided to like do whatever they wanted.
I don't know. That's just personally, as someone, I will admit, I never started with Generation 1. I started with 2, even though I began with 1 in terms of the anime and the cards and all that stuff. So I was familiar with that when I was a kid, but I started playing the games with 2. So I don't hold that much nostalgia for Kanto by itself. I just respect it for it being the first region. I just don't understand why you would take around one of the core functioning mechanics of the game since its inception for the sake of a mobile game. And I don't know, it just feels weird to me. It feels like it's Pokemon Kanto version light, if that
Maybe
makes any sense.
maybe they're trying to ease in newer players into like the Pokemon realm. That might be it.
I don't know how you could do it any easier than with Go. You already have a version of the game on your phones, which everyone has access to at no one's moment's notice. So why not just do a remake of Kanto on the Switch? I'm pretty sure everyone and their grandmas would buy it.
I know. That's true.
And just to add more puzzles to the or pieces of the puzzle, or take away more pieces, I guess. You can't evolve Pikachu or Eevee, the main ones in the game that you get. Now, I understand you can get other Pikachus and other Eevees in the game and evolve them, but why wouldn't you be allowed to evolve the main ones that you get in the first place?
Because they're cute.
But that I guess they are, even if you give them terrible haircuts like everyone seems to be doing now in terms of photoshopping them. But that just puzzles me a little bit. Now, maybe someone could make the excuse that they're trying to homage the original Pokemon Yellow, where you couldn't evolve the Pikachu within that game, which is fine because it was supposed to be emulating the anime. But I would say that we've at least moved so far past that point in terms of the anime that we don't really need to acknowledge that little momentum from that era.
Well, if you've seen any like the later trailers, they also showed stuff like Team Rocket, and it's Jesse and James.
I won't lie, that actually made me smile a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And there's a few other neat little things they've shown off since they did the Pokeball Plus thing at E3, like the fact that you can like ride a Charizard, and they have a new Eevee now has the female Eevee now has a different tail, so you can tell like the difference.
As if they try to make it even more cute, they had a little heart on the end of it.
Indeed.
Because Eevee is genetically engineered to be as cute and adorable as possible.
It's almost evil in a way.
Oh my god, it's almost as if it's written in its actual name.
Damn, I didn't even think that far into that joke. Shit.
Either way, I will admit it does look pretty good. And to your credit, it is kind of cool to actually see the fact that you can ride your Pokemon around. I think the one that made me laugh the most is the one where the character rides the Onyx.
Oh yeah, he's just kind of flailing around.
It's just like, let me ride my giant rock snake into battle. Just I find it hilarious that nobody else in the game is actually doing this, and you're the only one that's just saying, "Hey, let me just ride my giant rock snake down a highway," or imagine running or riding across that on a bridge.
I know.
It's like,
I bet other
it's like,
people look
man,
at
this
you
is.
like, man, you're a dick.
It was like not as much of a dick as that Snorlax blocking the road.
I know, right? Sleep somewhere else.
Which that actually makes me curious. Could you theoretically ride a Snorlax? I mean, I know
But
it's lazy and everything, but considering that you are allowed to ride some Pokemon, I wonder which ones you can ride and which ones you can't. I mean, obviously, the ones that are too small for you to ride, you can't do it, but you're technically bigger. Snorlax is very much bigger than you, so in theory, you should be able to ride a Snorlax.
it moves one step, it falls asleep. You have to wait 5 minutes, and then it wakes up, and does one more step, falls asleep.
It'd be kind of like a funny little twist on that. Is if you have it out and then you're ready to ride it and it just falls asleep. So instead of you riding the Snorlax, you literally like push it forward like you're pushing a boulder down a fucking street. You just
That'd be great.
you just keep rolling it forward for as long as you want to do that.
Just put it on its side and just roll it.
Yep.
That's amazing. And like, if you get it at top speed, you can like jump on top of it and start like running, rolling it.
Oh, you mean like just get on top of the Snorlax and then just roll it like you're like a giant hamster ball? It's like da 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 da. It's like a circus act.
Yes.
Oh god, I will gladly play that just for that if it's a thing. Because that's way too much of a gimmick not to enjoy in terms of hilarity factor.
Mm-hmm.
Although I will admit, it's actually kind of hilarious to see how the differentiating size happens for the Pokemon and how they compare to you. Especially the one where Gengar is standing literally right behind you. That's not creepy at all. And it's just staring at you and say, "Hey, how you doing? I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna eat your soul. I'm gonna haunt your dreams." Sorry, I know I went way too far into that.
No, that's cool. I'm glad we got a good bit of conversation out of an accessory push, so you can get a Mew.
Yeah, although let's be honest, by the time that the new generation games come out, they're going to be spamming us with legendaries all over the damn place.
Yep.
Oh, for sure. I'm like, ugh, ugh. But let's save that conversation for another day.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna move on if that's okay with you guys.
That's fine.
I'm good.
All right, folks. Here's a new one. Are you not using the full functions of your Switch? Do you feel like you haven't had a game that fully realizes the Switch's full potential? Well then, there's a game coming for you. It's called Super Mario Party.
Finally, they brought the board game back.
And damn, it's an involved game. Like the mini games use different screen positions and multiple screens and stuff. And I just never expected such a thing for the Switch. I didn't even think about that, you know?
And this is why Nintendo is who they are, because they are the ones who are probably sitting in their board meetings really high off their ass and thinking, okay, we got ourselves this console. We're going to put a Mario game on it. What about Mario Party? Yeah. Let's put a board game on it. You mean like the old ones? Yeah. What do we do about it? Well, I've got my Switch here. We could put normal games on it. Yeah, but what about a second Switch? I got it. We'll put the two together. But what about what that'll do? We can make it change the levels, dude.
Official voices, scripts from like Nintendo meetings at Nintendo Japan.
Just replace everything with Japanese, and it'll probably be just as funny.
It really would. But this looks like it's going to ruin a lot of friendships in inventive new ways.
Just like Mario Party is supposed to be.
So there's that. And I think that's really nice. They're
I
making
know I'm
Mario
getting
Party
it.
fun. I don't know if I've never played a Mario Party game.
Wait, really?
Hmm.
I'm a little surprised by that.
Actually, though,
What about you, Lenny? Have
you-
you ever played a Mario Party game?
yes, that's why I'm surprised. Like, Jalen, you do not know true pain yet. You do
I'll
not.
tell you now, you guys, I don't have a lot of friends, so I don't want to ruin the friendships.
I was about to say you may or may not
You
have
do
your
not know
friends
the
now because you haven't lost them due to Mario Party. Oh,
You
God.
do not know the horror that is bumper balls. Oh man. Or the classic minigame where you have to put Bowser's head on a literal TNT plunger, and you have to play a guessing game of whether or not you're going to blow up his head and have it blow up in your face. But no, I seriously recommend playing a Mario Party game at some point. In fact, considering that you and I have Switches now, I say let's play. We'll play Mario Party together.
Okay, that sounds like a good idea.
5 weeks later, when Super Mario Party comes out, I hate you. Yeah, this is a friendship is ruined.
I officially like make a note and I leave the Discord server forever.
God, I'm pretty sure it won't. I'm pretty sure it won't be that tenuous and saying like, okay, we're probably just gonna be really frustrated with each other. It's like you jerk.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
like that was my star.
But Super Mario Party is definitely going to be fun. For all you people out there with a Switch, it's probably going to be one of the games you have to have in your Switch library.
Let's be honest, they've probably already bought and pre-ordered the game already.
Yeah, that's true.
Can't say I blame them for it. In fact, I'm pretty sure people who have not bought a Mario Party game in a long time are going to buy this one solely because of the fact that it's bringing back the classic board game feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because then they did that whole nonsense with the past Mario Party games where everyone was in a car and everyone was just trying to do the whole hand holding. It's like everyone moves at the same time. It's like, that's not the point. That's not the reason why we played this game. We all played around the game because we wanted to play as a board game where we each were a dick to our friends and we made friendships ruined.
Yeah. And now we have a bit of return to form.
So vengeance will soon be had once again.
Look forward to it, folks. Moving on to our next reveal. It's the next mainline Fire Emblem game, subtitled Three Houses. And boy, if Awakening was reinforcements of like traditional Fire Emblem gameplay, this looks like it's going to expand and bring new things to the Fire Emblem formula.
Lenny, how about you have your piece because I feel like I'm about to lose my shit.
Well, truth be told, I'm not super familiar with the Fire Emblem games, so I don't have a ton to say on it. I mean, I wish I could give you more time for it, but I've heard good things. I like the song for it in Smash Brothers. That's about it. I played a little bit of the remake of it on Game Boy Advance for the first one. I played a little bit of that one. And that's all I got. I've heard good things from it, especially from Perry, so that's actually all I've got, I'm afraid. That's a lot of these Nintendo ones, because I haven't had a Nintendo system for a while, and a lot of these ones we're talking about are just not ones I'm like deep into it all. So, but yeah, Perry, have at it.
I'm excited. I was throbbing on the inside, just thinking of how it's like finally a new console Fire Emblem game. I will admit, I love Awakening to death, despite its censorship nonsense. I still love the game to death. I still think about that game very fondly. And I still think about going back to that just so that way I can listen to some of the dialogue options that I never heard. I will admit I never played Fates because I heard some nonsense with that one, and especially on the censorship angle and the fact that they split it into 3 games. Not really cool with that. I'm okay with Pokemon doing it, but not Fire Emblem. Mostly because I didn't want that to be milking me for all it was worth. Also, you made the DLC to the game the ending. Seriously, I've dealt with the Zora's Wrath on that one, and that was BS enough as it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, not really cool on that end. I never played Fire Emblem Warriors, though, but from what, Jalen, you've told me, it's pretty good, yes?
Yeah, it's really good. Like I said, the only real negative I have is the cast.
Yeah, and Echoes, I heard, came out fairly well, yes?
Yeah, it's a good Fire Emblem game. I don't think people think it's
Yeah.
stellar, but like it's good.
It's a solid game, basically.
Yes.
I will have to give it a go at some point, mostly probably maybe before this new one comes out. But as soon as I played Fire Emblem, it's like, man, I wish I was playing this on a console. And I do have Shadow Dragon and Path of Radiance on, and those games are actually pretty rare now to come across. They cost a pretty penny. So I'm very happy to say that I am a Fire Emblem fan now, and it's probably my overall favorite Nintendo franchise at this moment, even despite my grievances with the series and how it's been managed in the past couple of years. But as soon as I saw 3 houses announced and all the armies coming into battle and the little tactical screens, and I'm just like, oh my god, I am so buying this. I was super happy. I was just giddy as a schoolgirl, and I'm surprised at how a lot more serious and somber this one looked just from its initial impressions. And I know a lot of people were comparing it to Game of Thrones, and I don't deny that they think or deny the comparison, considering that it does look a little bit more serious. But I was just thinking that this is a little bit more quote unquote hardcore version of Fire Emblem, if that makes any sense.
Oh no, definitely. The games pre-Awakening are definitely a lot more serious in tone.
So I imagine that this is what the intelligent systems is going to be doing with 3 houses as a more return to form for the series. They'll keep some of the conveniency factors of Fire Emblem Awakening, but they'll trap it in a more serious story akin to the older games.
Yeah. Oh yeah. More than likely.
And you know what? I'm all for that. And just give us a new line of characters. And I think the one thing that made me most curious is Tiki still around in this series? Because I felt like I saw her either in the trailer or made a reference to her in the trailer by the time the whole thing was over.
See, that I don't know because each of the games take place in like a different region or continent. Like Awakening takes place on the same continent that Shadow Dragon does, but 1,000 years into the future.
Oh, so it does all take place in the same universe. It's not a whole parallel universe type deal.
Right. Well, no, that's not true because the Radiant games take place in a different dimension because in Awakening, Ike's son is actually a playable character in that game.
Oh, really?
hmm And at the end of the last game, Radiant Dawn, he it in Ike's ending, we find out that he just left on a journey and never came back.
Oh, wow, that's kind of sad.
hmm So like the theory so far is that Ike found a way to go to another dimension, and that led him to the dimension where Shadow Dragon takes place, and he's lived in that universe, and he eventually had children.
Oh, okay. I will have to I will have to go back and play these games. And in fact, you know what? Here's another idea for Nintendo: remaster Path of Radiance and Shadow Dragon and put them on the Switch.
Shoot, there's a bunch of
I,
old Fire Emblem games that they could remaster or remake. Some of them they can just remake from the ground up.
Screw it. Remake all of them. Remaster all of them. Or just put them on the eShop or whatever. Just do it. Put them all on one system. And I will gladly buy every single one of them.
It'd be very nice.
Yeah, it would. Plus, I think some of them in the series have never even come over to the West, correct?
Yeah, the SNES games still haven't touched over here. Nor has a Mystery of the Emblem.
So, yes, Nintendo, get on that. I will gladly shove money in your face in order to get the games. So, yeah, needless to say, I am excited for Fire Emblem Three Houses. As long as they don't make that title literal and saying, okay, we're going to split the game in 3 parts again. It's like, God damn it.
Oh, that'd be some malarkey.
That would be dumb on so many levels. But if they just keep it all in one game and just be a good little company and just make it super easy for us to get, I will be happily buying it on day one. And if there's a collector's edition for the game, which I hope there is, I will buy it. And I will also buy the soundtrack because the soundtracks alone, even if the game I don't own, the soundtracks alone are amazing. I still have the Fire Emblem Awakening soundtrack on my phone from when I bought the CDs. And to this day, I still listen to the crap out of the ending battle themes because it is incredible. So yeah, that's my little piece on Fire Emblem. I hope I didn't squeal and fanboy too much.
No, I think you did a good job honing it in.
I agree.
And you actually said a lot of the things I was gonna say about Three Houses. So there's really not more to say than I'm looking forward to it. Really am. The new Fire Emblem main title was like one of the reasons for like picking up my Switch in the first place for me, because like Mario is cool, Zelda's cool, but like Fire Emblem, that's my jam.
And I'm so happy that it's gone this long, considering how close to death the series was for Awakening before it came out.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're getting to the point where having another console Fire Emblem game. Come to think of it, wasn't Shadow Dragon the last one that came out for consoles?
No, Shadow Dragon was on the DS.
Oh, right, Shadow Dragon. Was it? No, Radiant Dawn. That was it.
Radiant Dawn was the last one on the Wii.
Yeah, and that was what, back in 2008?
I feel like it was like 2008, 2009, something like that.
Somewhere around that time. So basically 10 years since a console Fire Emblem game.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit, that's a while ago. But yeah, I've said my piece on Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Alrighty, I think it's time to move on then. Fortnite came to Switch the day they showed it off on the Direct. That's neat.
So now it is.
Play it online for free.
Next thing you know, they're going to be putting it on toasters.
Fortnite on the Amazon Alexa.
Or Fortnite on the Samsung Smart Fridge.
Oh boy. Like, I mean, I'm happy for people that get to play Fortnite on more stuff, I guess. I'm just, it's not my thing.
Yeah, it's definitely not for me either. I know some people that play it, but I just don't really have any interest in Fortnite whatsoever. It just to me looks like it just looks to me like PUBG with a bigger budget and way kookier. Which, hey, nothing wrong with that. I'm okay with kooky and crazy, but it just doesn't interest me that much, honestly. What about you, Lenny? You have anything on this?
Well, I'm waiting for it to get ported to Abacus before I actually get my hands on it. But
what's next? You're gonna wait for the port to the sundial?
I mean that might be a little too retro for my taste, but fingers crossed. But I mean, I think you get Skyrim on a sundial. I think they can get Fortnite. All right. But no, I am okay generally with Fortnite, mainly because uh, I'm not gonna get into it a ton, but I generally found PUBG. Okay, here's the thing. In a vacuum, PUBG is very innocuous. All right, it's a fun game. There you go. The instant that you try and put it into the context of anything else is when I see it start to kind of spiral out of control in regards to originality. And here's what I'm talking about. I'm not going to go into a huge rant, but mini rant. In short, it is based on a mod from someone else's game. Uses someone else's engine. The whole premise is based off of, hence why the genre is called Battle Royale. It's based off the movie Battle Royale, so he didn't even come up with the concept. He just integrated it into someone else's game as a mod, decided that somehow this was a wholly original idea from him, turned it into his own game on someone else's engine, and then when someone else decided to incorporate this idea that was never his and was actually the company that let him use the engine in the first place, in this case, Epic, used the Unreal Engine to make Fortnite and then added, mind you, they made Fortnite before PUBG came out, but they added the Battle Royale mode later, and he sued Epic, as in, he sued the people who's letting him use an engine that he didn't make in the first place, based off of a game mode that he created, based off of a movie that he doesn't own, from a game that he also didn't make. And so many people defended that because they love PUBG. And I'm not even kidding, I say that a lot of people, I think, defended it not because they had any actual sincere, strict principles. They defended it because they liked the game. I'm a fanboy, I understand the concept of defending something on the basis that you like it, but if you had any sort of principles, you'd do this. And that's not to say that Fortnite is above that. Clearly they added the Battle Royale because it was popular, not because they had an original idea. But in my eyes, I'm okay more with Fortnite because, one, they had their own engine to do everything with anyway. They never pretended that they weren't taking it from like someone else making a game and making it popular. And it has so many other elements to it that I feel add layers of, we'll say, comparative depth. PUBG is, I've heard it called shopping cart simulator. Run around with nothing, maybe get a gun or two, hopefully don't die randomly with someone sniping you from a mile away, and if you happen to survive the chaos, congratulations. You're skilled at games, I guess. But in Fortnite, at least, there's the crafting component. That's not to say that that makes it an infinitely better game, but I feel like being able to construct things and have bases can add a little bit of tactics to it outside of just grab the gun, shoot the thing. So, keeping that in mind, and also to add the caveat of it's free. Like, the Battle Royale mode is free. So keeping that whole thing in mind, I can either pay $40+ for an unoriginal game that pretends like it is and sues people when they disagree, or not pay any money for a game with more mechanics that is better optimized, has its own engine, and doesn't pretend to be an original product. And literally the only downside is that Fortnite has more screaming children, and so I'll just mute the mics. That is where I'm at with this. Fortnite is fine for me because I'm not fond of the way that they approach things from PUBG's point of view, if I were to get that. Although, other much smaller mini rant, because I realized that the one I just said was longer than I wanted it to be. In simple terms, Epic slowly started killing off Paragon in order to get funding and more developers for Fortnite. And I loved Paragon, and I feel like sabotaging a game just because one of your head investors, in this case Tencent, they're like a Chinese studio that owns a lot of shit, they became primary stock owners back in like 2013, right when Paragon started, before the Fortnite boom. I believe that they intentionally sabotaged the game because they didn't want competition for League of Legends, and they wanted more resources for Fortnite because they couldn't keep up with the popularity of it. So they killed a game that I like because they wanted money. So fuck them.
That's fair. That's very fair.
And that is my much more long-winded than I wanted it to be explanation for why I'm okay, but I'm not particularly fond of Fortnite.
I can't really find any way to disagree with that, so good on you.
That was slightly more passionate than I wanted to be, man. It's just you get this shit on the internet, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I don't fault you, man. You have your reasons.
Yeah.
Well, if you like Fortnite and you have a Switch, there you go. Moving on to our final Nintendo reveal. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Everything. Everything.
And everyone.
And everyone. Perry, take the floor.
Oh man, okay. So for those of you who don't know this or listening in on this, I have a little bit of a jaded history with the Smash series. Mostly love 64 Melee, great. Uh, Brawl, I enjoy, but I got burned out on Brawl because while I was in college, that was literally all that my circle would play at the time, and it frankly drove me nuts because I wanted to play and experience different things outside of Brawl. I don't mind playing it. It was just so pervasive that I couldn't enjoy or talk about any other game outside of Brawl, and it drove me crazy. So I just decided not to play or really get involved with the next Smash Brothers game. I mean, I bought the games nonetheless, mostly because I just bought them and I wanted to give them a try, but I never really delved that deep into them. That, however, is going to change with this one because it is literally everyone from the previous games in this one and then some because of certain character reveals that were announced. And I also love the fact that the game itself is very self-aware in terms of, yeah, we know we have clones. Yeah, we have very much characters that are just inspirations or knockoffs to the other one. So we're going to give them our official clone name called Echo Fighters. So I was like, okay, that's fine. I'm cool with it. Because reality, everyone's just going to still call them clones because it's just easier than just calling them Echo Fighters. Either way, cool. They're going to have all the characters. I'm very curious to see how they're going to do all the stages, whether or not they're bringing every single stage back from the previous games, including the variations of same stages, because Final Destination I know has appeared several times over the series. So I'm wondering if they're going to bring in Melee Final Destination with Brawl Final Destination. I don't know. I'm just curious. But I also love the fact that every one of them has their own Battlefield variant and Final Destination variant. So at least then Smash fans will shut the hell up. I'm glad the entire roster is back. I'm very curious to see who, if ever, anyone else they're going to add in after this initial announcement, because they only announced technically 2 characters. Well, one brand new character and one just another clone. But I'm okay with the fact that they have everyone in the previous games, because that's still that when you add all of that up, that's a pretty meaty roster. But the part that makes me the most happy about the game is it adds in the feature of you have to unlock everyone from the start. Well, not is that you don't have everyone from the start. Is that you start with the initial roster of the first Smash game, but you expand it to include everyone once you play the game more and more, and it rewards you for playing it.
Yep, that is one of the coolest things about it. Like, if you don't like the, buy DLC characters just to get new DLC, new characters, well, Smash Brothers took unlocking to like the next step. And from what I understand, the qualifications of unlocking characters are going to be much easier just because of how many characters there are.
Yeah, it isn't the final roster, or at least the current one up to now, of 60 plus characters.
Yeah, it's 60 plus. It actually might be close to 65.
That's a pretty meaty roster right out of the gate, right there.
Mm-hmm. And there's a bunch of gameplay changes too. Like there's changes to how dodges work. And there's changes to how like damage is calculated in single player and multiplayer. And I think there's some other like intricate things about the gameplay that they've changed up.
Yeah, I'm very curious. Have you heard anything from the fans in the competitive scene of what they think about these changes?
I think most of them like them there I think a few of them like were complaints about like Smash 4. So some of these changes are for the better in their eyes. And everyone's looking forward to if who played Smash 4 is definitely probably going to move from Smash 4 to Ultimate. Like there's no real reason to play Smash 4 anymore. I feel like melee players are gonna melee, but I'm pretty sure they're willing to try it out at least.
Because they can't freaking move on.
Mm, yeah, I understand. Like I get it. I'm not gonna like chastise them too hard, you know?
I'm not trying to chastise them, but there's a point where it's like, guys, it's okay. It's okay. You don't need to keep dragging the corpse with you.
Hey man, the only way to play it is on those CRTs.
For some of them, yes. I personally see no reason to keep that thing keep going because it's been long dead. I mean, I know it's not dead. I mean, technically, its time has come and gone. We're way past that now.
Yeah, but that aside, I think people are like competitive wise, like, yeah, holy shit, this game looks like it could be the greatest hits of Smash Brothers, minus tripping.
I mean, let's face it, that's pretty much what this whole game is. It's Smash Brothers Ultimate. The one thing I'm very curious about is how many more characters, if any, are they going to add to this roster? Because they've already announced Daisy and Ridley, which thank goodness we can put that meme and argument to bed finally.
He's
Just
too big.
Yep, no, doesn't no longer a valid argument because he's in the game now. And I love how self-aware the intro screen was. Ridley hits the big time. Like they knew exactly what they were doing with that.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is who the heck could they even add if they're going to add anyone else?
I think you know the answer
Slippy
to that,
Toad.
Barry.
Slippy Toad.
I swear to God, if you say who I think you're gonna, I will leave this call right now.
It's
Mona.
exactly who you think it is, Barry.
Mona can throw pizzas at us.
Drake and Josh.
Oh, thank God! I thought you were gonna.
And Waluigi, my favorite
That's-
character.
That's it. I'm getting the vodka.
No, wait, come back. Truth be told, I did recently see a joke thing where they made fun of the Smash Bros. Trailer with the whole "everyone's here," and they actually had Drake and Josh as the final two characters.
Come on, dude. Seriously.
It was great.
But if I remember correctly, they actually said they're not gonna focus on new characters all that much because they're the big focus was making sure getting like all the veteran characters back in the game.
Right.
Sorry, you okay there, Jalen? You cut out there for a second.
Oh, sorry. I said
I heard you there. I think that might have just been on your end, Perry. We didn't hear you for a second.
Sorry.
no, it's okay. But yeah, they're focusing less on newer characters because the big focus was bringing everyone back into the game.
Right.
And you know what? I'm okay with that in this case because you're considering you're giving us a 60+ character roster right out of the gate.
Mm-hmm. As a funny
So
aside,
I'm not mad about that.
here's something really funny. The Japanese Smash community call Ridley Captain America because of how popular he over request he was for Western fans.
Wait,
That's awesome.
what?
Yeah, they call Ridley Captain. Oh yeah, you might not know this, Perry, but Metroid and Zelda are not popular in Japan.
Why am I not surprised?
So like Ridley Ridley's popularity mostly comes from Western nations.
Okay. Is there any particular reason why, or is it just because Metroid itself is more popular in the West than it is in Japan, thus Ridley
Metroid,
is more popular?
yes, exactly. If honestly, if they never showed Ridley in the intro for Smash Brothers Melee, I feel like people would not be asking for him as much.
Oh yeah, that's right. I remember in that intro where Samus literally is just fighting Ridley.
Hmm. And ever since then, they have wanted Ridley in Smash, and that's I get it. He was he was in the intro. He you could have like assumed that he was going to be a playable character.
I think it's mainly because if you have all these other villains in there, if you have Bowser and if you have Ganondorf for these, you figure if you have these other, villains in there, you'd figure at the very minimum, and then they would continue to add them with Meta Knight and DDD, so you'd think they'd be like, okay, now you can get this since you're one of the mainline villains. I mean, not that it's universal, of course, but I think that was probably their logic. Like, if you can have villains, then you can have our villain.
Hmm. But now he's finally in, so everyone can shut up.
Thank
Hooray.
freaking Christ.
Still
Been
holding out for
listening
Drake
to
and Josh,
this
though.
request for like 2 decades now.
We've been listening to this meme for way too damn long.
Yeah.
It was a meme before we even knew what the word meme was.
Entirely true.
So, okay, since they're not going to focus on new characters, who do you actually want, not ironically, want as a new character in Smash, or even just a clone character of someone in Smash?
Shadow.
If you could pick one,
Shadow.
Shadow the Hedgehog, really?
Hmm.
Okay, are you saying that genuinely as someone who likes to play Sonic, or just because?
I just think it'd be nice because if you're gonna put in like another Sonic character, that's the easiest thing you can do is put in Shadow.
I won't lie, that is technically kind of true. What about you, Lenny? Who would you pick?
Revolver Ocelot.
All right, that would be weird, but you know what? I'll roll with it.
I need a
Oh
counterpart
shit!
for Snake. I would absolutely love if he was in this game.
See, I would have been like, we just clone fighter Big Boss.
Oh god, I'd love it, and I'm just thinking of like what they would actually do for the stuff, and like it's gonna be the dumbest thing ever. I just think it'd be amazing if his final smash is just he just takes off his fucking shades and he just says you're pretty good, and just bam, whoever he points his fingers at just gets shot off the stage.
Guys, we can have Jean. We can have Jean from Bayo.
Oh yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, didn't Bayonetta have an alternate costume skin for her for Jean in the last Smash?
That was one of her colors. I think for the Bayo too.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, well, I've got a bit of an out there pick, and and Sony fans, please don't crucify me for saying this. How about Crash Bandicoot?
Mm, I mean, I guess that does actually have the capability to be there. Initially, I was going to say he's never been on a Nintendo system before, but then we have two issues. Issue number one is the Game Boy Advance games, and then issue number two, I at least is that Cloud was in Smash, and he's never been on Nintendo system before Smash before, so
and you're forgetting the giant third elephant in the room. The Insane Trilogy is coming to Switch.
Well, yeah, I get that. I guess it's more a matter of like, I consider most of the characters to be sort of like legacy, as in, oh, they were on Nintendo, so now it's okay to have them now, sort of a thing. But again, Cloud throws it out the window because Final Fantasy VII has never, to my knowledge, been on a Nintendo platform ever.
Nope.
So I'm like, oh, okay, so let's have a character that none of your audience should be familiar with if they only own Nintendo. But here we go. Have him here anyway. Which is fine. I don't think he's a bad character as much as I'm of the opinion that if you're going to have a character, it should be one that's actually on your platform. And he literally isn't, so oops. But there he is.
I don't know. I'm picking Crash mostly because of one, his resurgence with the Insane Trilogy, but he's sort of a stepping stone pick to who I would actually want to put in the game, and that's Spyro.
I was hoping you were going to say Kratos, the God of War.
Oh hell no! No, there's no way that's happening. I mean, I know with Cloud and Bayonetta, everything was thrown. The whole kitchen sink was thrown out, so all bets are off. But even I'm willing to bet, it's like, yeah, that's not happening. But I was thinking something that would fit relatively well, or at least easily-ish within the confines of Smash. I mean, and plus, wouldn't you want to see a three-way fight between technically the most famous mascot trio war of the 90s, which was Sonic, Mario, and Crash? I mean, we already have Sonic and Mario beating each other up for over a decade now. We just need the final piece of the puzzle.
That's true.
So in this case would be Crash Bandicoot. And I'm not going to lie, as much as I like Crash, I would much rather have Spyro on there, considering he's having the Reignited trilogy coming out soon, but that's not coming to Switch. However, I wouldn't put it impossible to say that it's going to come to Switch eventually. I would say give it at least a year before we get the Switch version. And by that time, I'm sure I would say Crash is a possibility for Smash. So Crash, I would say in terms of plausible, but pipe dream wise would be Spyro. Plus, I think Spyro would work very much differently than we don't get a lot of quadruped creatures or characters within Smash. I think the only one that works on all fours, as much to off the top of my head, is Donkey Kong. And
we also have Diddy Kong and Duck Hunt Dog.
Yeah, that's really it. That's the only quadruped characters. And I'm sorry, but a gorilla, an ape, a chimpanzee, and a dog don't work the same way as a dragon. So. And the only one that's closest, and I'm saying closest with a very, very loosest definition of the word, is Ridley. But even that case, Ridley works so different in terms of how he actually fights than Spyro does that it's probably even fair to say it's not even worth comparison. So I think Spyro would be very much a different character for that lineup. So I don't know. I just thought.
Well, I don't even think it's that much of a pipe dream because the Reignited trilogy is also coming to Switch, just like the Insane trilogy.
Wait, it is? I thought it wasn't.
I thought it was. I mean, we can check, but I'm pretty sure it said it is. I know at the very least it's not Sony exclusive, so.
Okay, I just checked the Wikipedia for it. It's only listed for PS4 and Xbox One.
Really? I thought it had other ones. My mistake.
No, that's the reason why I said give it a year later, then we'll get the Switch version. But since Crash Bandicoot is coming to the Switch now with the Insane trilogy, I figured it's like, oh, well, that makes it more plausible that he would show up in Smash. Plus, I think that would be the one that gets the most people reacting. And it would seem to be the smartest move for the people who made the Insane trilogy, because you're riding high off the success of that game, and now you're bringing Crash to Smash. I don't know. It just seemed to make the most sense to me.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Here's another one. Here's another character. Simon Belmont.
Oh,
yeah, I can see that.
Or, okay, maybe just as I'll throw it. I'm okay with Simon, but I'm going to throw in a honorable mention / replacement for that. One, because I feel like we need more villains. How about Dracula? Or two, just as an alternative pick, Richter Belmont.
Yeah, Richter would be nice too. And the only reason why
Or,
I went with Simon's because NES.
yeah, that's also true. Or, considering the Castlevania Netflix series going around, Trevor Belmont.
That's also true. I could go with Trevor.
Really, any one of those main three Belmonts, Simon, Trevor, and Richter, would be perfectly fine with me, as long as there is a Belmont of some sort. But if you're going to do another villain, then Dracula would be pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The question is, which version of Dracula? Because he's very different in the incarnations throughout the rest of the series. I mean, he's pretty consistent as a villain, but he has different forms and has somewhat different attacks and powers throughout his history.
I think they make him like an amalgam of like a majority of them. Like more than likely he would have like all of his like main like fireballs. So like the third triple fireball, the weird like one weird orb thing, and he'd probably be able to like turn into a bat or something like that. I don't know. Teleport and do soul steal.
That bat thing might be a way he saves himself from falling.
Yeah, that could be true.
But yeah, I'm totally down for anyone in the Castlevania series being on the Smash Ultimate. That would be pretty cool. Plus, it'd be very different than what a lot of other weapon users would. It wouldn't be another sword user, so that way we can have those complainers shut up.
Anime sword, Fire Emblem.
Yep, pretty much. Either way, I'm excited for this. I'm going to definitely pick it up, and I will have to dust off my old skills messing around with Ike, Sonic, and all of my other mains.
I can't wait to finally play Bayonetta and maybe Ryu.
Oh, oh, that's gonna be so much fun. And I can't wait to hear the salt, pain, and tears of the players who hate Bayonetta and fighting her. And I don't care. I will watch them all squirm and bow at my feet.
I don't know. She might be knocked into the ground.
I don't care. I will find a way to make her work. But yeah, that's pretty much all my piece on Smash.
All right, Lenny. Anything else you want to add?
I still want Drake and Josh. I'm like 75% joking, but that other 25% is completely serious. If they were in the game, I would play as them. No joke.
Oh, you.
Watch them be an alternate skin for the fucking ice climbers.
That would work a little too
idea.
well. I need modders to do it.
Well, sorry, Lenny, go ahead.
Nah, if there's a modding community for the Switch at some point, I would love for them to do something like that.
Well,
Just
I'll say
for-
this: at least you went with Drake and Josh and not Corey in the goddamn house.
What would the blue ice climber be Corey and the pink one be the house?
Lenny, when you said Drake and Josh, I thought you meant Ornstein and Smog. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, I was actually thinking that might be another good alternate skin, like just for other like famous duos. But no, I meant actual Drake and Josh, not meme Drake and Josh. Although they are a meme, I mean the actual like the two from the show.
Mm-hmm.
Oh god. But that's my piece. I've got nothing.
Oh, hello, vodka. You don't abandon me, will you?
Don't touch that vodka yet, my friend.
Why not? It's comforting.
You can get comfort when we're done, and we're almost done, because that was the last of Nintendo's Conferenco Direct.
That means that's the last conference in general as well.
Indeedo.
Woo! We've gotten through all of it at last.
That's right. So, keeping that in mind, we are now going to enter into our conclusion, reviews, final thoughts, whatever you want to call the end of this lengthy celebration of gaming advertisements. So, well, Jalen, since you've been nice enough to host, I think we'll have you also be the one to cap this off. I'll say, Perry, if you would like to start with your final thoughts and conclusions about E3 as a whole, and any other outstanding comments you have.
Okay, in terms of E3, I will say it was actually cool just to actually go this time. Considering this is my very first time going to E3 on the show floor, it was surreal being there, having followed it for various years. That being said, just speaking the conferences themselves, I thought they were overall pretty solid. Not mind blowing, not the greatest that they ever had. I mean, let's face it, we've had some pretty killer conferences in the past. For what I would say, Sony lacked in terms of their overall presentation, while I still think was good, was made up for by everyone else overall. So I felt like everyone was a more even keel, if that makes any sense. Whereas you can point to a little bit of good out of almost everybody except for one, UEA. So aside from that one massive spoiled roast, I would say everyone did a fairly good job. I was overall pretty happy with the Microsoft conference. I still don't have a reason to buy an Xbox, but a lot of the stuff they did show, I'm at least interested in, especially Devil May Cry. Hell yes. In terms of Nintendo, I'm pretty happy with overall with their presentation. No real major complaints. Sony's overall is pretty solid as usual and was presented really well. I will admit the format was a bit strange this year, but I have no problem. I didn't really have any general issue with it. I just wish they kept a more traditional form like they did at least last year or the year prior to that. Ubisoft and Square Enix, I thought did really good in terms of their game presentation. They all showed stuff that I was really curious about or kept my interest. So yeah, I'd say everyone had a pretty even, solid showing this year for the most part, again, except for EA.
Fair enough. I think that was an excellent summation of this. I'm going to say I'm going to mirror most of those thoughts, if I'm being honest. For me, personally, I was initially very worried about Sony's conference because I had heard that they said that they were going to do 4 games. I was worried that meant they would only show 4 games, which luckily that wasn't the case, as you saw with our Sony conference, that there was more than 4. Although they did focus heavily on the main 4 for their exclusives. So keeping that in mind, though, that's the one I wanted to focus on the most just because, again, I'm a self-professed Sony fanboy. But keeping that in mind, the Microsoft conference I thought was exceptional. I generally liked most of the conferences. Like even EA's, it was definitely the worst, I think. But even then, I didn't hate it as much as I have for previous years. And keeping all of that in mind, I thought this E3 was pretty good. It wasn't like last year. I think it was either last year or the year before, where like every big game was announced and it was just like blowing it out of the water. So it wasn't like a stellar year, of course, but I think this was more than adequate to keep us satiated, especially for me personally, because of that Death Stranding gameplay. It's not like deep gameplay, but I saw it like in-engine stuff. I saw him moving around. It wasn't just another cutscene. It's stuff. And I still don't know what's happening, but stuff is occurring, and that's good. So yeah, that's about my general final thoughts. Is I was satisfied this year, not overly impressed with everything, but I was mostly satisfied. And keeping that in mind, we now have Jalen to give his final thoughts, and then we will give a close to this year.
All right, you guys. I thought E3 was pretty great this year, actually. Mostly because I saw a lot of games that I wanted to see. Like, damn, Devil May Cry 5, fucking RE2 remake. Jesus Christ. Like, just those two make E3 for me. but that's very personal. Um, but even then, without like the personal like influence, I feel like the C3 was really good. Like, there was no conference that was like boring, with the exception of EA. And again, that's also a bit personal too, because they didn't have anything to offer me. But there were a lot of good titles announced. A lot of good titles announced that are coming out kind of soon, and some of those are out now actually. Um, Everyone had a good showing. Nothing was like too far into the future, with the exception of like maybe a few titles that were like clearly like first announcements.
Yeah,
And
that is very true. And
mhm.
actually, now that you mentioned it, Jalen, you said your games of would you say the games that surprised you the most were the RE2 remake and Devil May Cry 5?
Yes.
So, do you want to run with that theme, Lenny, and say which two games were you the ones you were the happiest to see?
I was, I would say, out of all of them, I know Death Stranding for sure, but that's a pretty tough one if I'm looking for like a good close second. Um, shoot. I would, if I'm gonna be honest, I'm looking at all of them. Probably Sekiro. You know, I mean, there's other really big ones. I'm probably spacing. I'm sure there's gonna be a moment of like, but Lenny, I thought you loved insert game Lenny loves here, and they'll be like, oh yeah. But in the meantime, until I completely stop spacing out and forget the games I love, I'm gonna say Sekiro is the second behind Death Stranding.
No, that's pretty fair. I'm sorry, Jalen. I didn't mean to cut you off on your final words.
No, no, that's cool. I was gonna kind of try to wrap it up a bit. Um, Overall, this E3 was great. Like if I the three standout conferences for me is actually, the big three companies, then Microsoft, Nintendo, and Sony. Not in that order, actually. If I were going to put in an order from best to like one to three, it would be Microsoft at the top, Sony in the middle, and then Nintendo kind of third.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
At least in terms of games that are relevant to our respective interests.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, good going gaming industry. You didn't make a bore fest, and you did something cool. You made me happy to like video games still.
It's always nice whenever we can get our big show of the year and it reminds us why we enjoyed this whole thing in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Well, just to kind of cap it off with, uh, well, at least since I asked you guys, I'll just say just very quickly that my two of the show standouts, Beyond Good and Evil 2 and Cyberpunk 2077, with a honorable mention of Ghost of Tsushima, just because I gawked over that so damn much.
Mm,
But
good
either way,
choices.
I'm like you guys. I'm very happy with the way this whole thing wrapped up, with the way E3 just presented itself. It was just a very nice, even keel, satisfying show overall.
Mm-hmm. I can
Anyways,
agree.
I think you have the floor now to end the show.
That's right. So with that in mind, thank you everyone who's been with us on this very long journey and who's decided to continue watching us despite the, we'll say, relative drought of content on this channel for the most part. We hope this can keep you satiated for a bit and you can expect more from all of us in the future, hopefully. And with that in mind, I have been Lenny.
I have been Senor Petty.
And I am the insoluble Jalen.
And we will see you guys on either the next podcast or, fingers crossed, the next E3. See you next time.
Take care.
Farewell, everyone.